Chapter 1301. After Li Qiuyu left, Gu Qingshan and Zhao Qiong stood still and waited. Gu Qingshan pondered and asked, "Senior Zhao, just now, she said that she was going to deal with a recorded apocalypse. What does that mean?" Zhao Qiong looked around, saw that they were all normal people, and whispered, "The so-called recorded apocalypse refers to the lowest level apocalypse that has been thoroughly investigated. We have a set procedure to eliminate them. There aren't many of these apocalypses, and in truth we can only fight against the majority of apocalypses without being able to eliminate them. Also, make sure not to casually ask these questions after entering the school." "Why not?" Gu Qingshan doubtfully asked. "That's because in a truly great sect, the secrets that have been discovered and the mysteries that have yet to be verified are both unique and valuable items that cannot be measured with money. You must have certain qualifications before you are allowed to trade and obtain the secrets or mysteries of the corresponding grade," Zhao Qiong explained. Gu Qingshan immediately said gratefully, "Thank you, Senior Zhao, for telling me such a secret for no reason at all." Zhao Qiong smiled and raised the ice cream in her hand. "It'll be offset by this ice cream." Gu Qingshan also smiled, but she knew that a single ice cream wasn't worth such a secret. Zhao Qiong was actually quite a decent person, both in terms of personal research and the way she treated others. Thinking about it from another perspective, it turns out that the most important things in this tomb of myriad beasts are secrets and mysteries. I wonder how far this world's understanding of the apocalypses, the samsara, and the infinite worlds has progressed. In the previous battlefield, the wraiths all ignored the people of the tomb of myriad beasts, which means that the wraiths don't dare to offend the tomb of myriad beasts. Although I came from the 900 million world layers, traveled to the age of old, and even met with the awaitings, there might still be some secrets that even I don't know about in this tomb of myriad beasts. Gu Qingshan felt a sense of anticipation. At this point, he was no longer in a hurry to enter the Wraith realm. He and Zhao Qiong waited for about 15 minutes. A tall and slender woman holding a fan descended from above. The painted bone serenity, Li Qiuyu. The wind blowing from the canal caressed her hair and long skirt. Under the reflection of the water, she looked exceptionally beautiful and moving. "All right, we can go back now." She touched Gu Qingshan's head and said. At this time, Gu Qingshan was disguised as a 14 or 15-year-old Li Sanlang. His height only reached her chest. She could touch his head with one hand. For some reason, this little guy's head was really comfortable to touch, even more so than those of his pet. "Painted Bones Serenity, are we going to directly teleport back?" Zhao Qiong politely asked. "No, I just received news that the school was conducting a research experiment this morning and accidentally released a troublesome apocalypse. Teleporting directly might be a bit dangerous, so we're flying back," Li Qiuyu said. "Ah, right, Zhao Qiong, you can just call me by my name from now on," she added. Zhao Qiong panicked and hurriedly said, "Your Excellency." Li Qiuyu cut her off. "No need to call me Your Excellency. You've done an excellent job over the past few years. Your identification, collection, and research of spirit-linked bones had already surpassed the other schools, not to mention that piece of scale, as well as this child." She put her hand on Gu Qingshan's head and stroked it again, then continued, "Because of that, the school has already decided to promote you to the same rank as me when we return." Zhao Qiong froze, apparently still unable to digest this good news. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, "Then, can we leave now?" "Yes, we should go." Saying so, Li Qiuyu opened the fan in her other hand. The surface of the fan was completely white with only a few floating flowers on it. The entire fan was giving off a drifting green light. With a closer look, the green light was all coming from the 12 white bone fragments that formed the core of the fan. A bone master? Gu Qingshan was surprised. Li Qiuyu lightly waved the fan. Instantly, a snow-white leopard appeared on the surface of the fan. The leopard's body trembled, then landed on the ground. Its body slowly grew until it was 7 to 8 meters long. It crouched on the ground, looking at the three of them. Let's go, we're returning to the sect, Li Qiuyu said. Under her guidance, Zhao Qiong and Gu Qingshan sat on the snow-white leopard's back. The snow-white leopard stood up, slowly ran a few steps, then abruptly leapt into the air. Its speed gradually increased until it reached the sky in the blink of an eye. It was running through the clouds as if it was running on flat ground. Sitting on the snow-white leopard's back, Gu Qingshan silently marveled at its speed. The wind in the sky as well as the low temperature were completely blocked out by the leopard's presence. The leopard's speed was extremely fast, but it was also very stable, and it was actually very comfortable to sit on. An hour later, the snow-white leopard had already crossed the mountains, rivers, and oceans, landing on a barren desert. There was a fixed warp point from the eastern desolate grotto to the western sea grotto here. Li Qiuyu ordered, "We're going to wait here until nightfall, then leave the eastern desolate grotto. Hey, little brother Qiushan, us two women are very delicate, we've been exposed to the sun and wind every day, so our skin is already tanned. We need to rest and do some skincare. You used to be a follower of a young master in the clan, so you should know how to cook and brew tea, so I'll leave this to you." Gu Qingshan opened her mouth a few times, then finally spat out a single word. "All right, nightfall." The three of them arrived at the westernmost part of the barren desert, standing in front of a rock about half a meter tall. "Let's go, I'll go up first," Li Qiuyu said. She leapt onto the rock and abruptly disappeared. Gu Qingshan copied her and also leapt onto the rock, then froze. Standing on top of the rock, she could no longer see the barren desert, only an abandoned cave in front of her. Gu Qingshan looked down. She was currently standing in a deep crater at the bottom of the cave. The rock was being stepped on by him. "Come up," Li Qiuyu was worried that he didn't know any martial arts, so she reached out to pull him up from the crater. Following that, Zhao Qiong also appeared in the crater. The three of them left the cave together and arrived at the edge of the cliff. Just like the last time they entered the eastern desolate grotto, they would have to jump down again. Li Qiuyu glanced at the low-quality metal bracelet on Gu Qingshan's hand and scoffed. "Don't ever use this again, you're a disgrace to our school of Shanhai." She took out a bracelet made of bone and tossed it to Gu Qingshan. "Put this on, then jump." Gu Qingshan received it and checked. White bone desolate beast bracelet, a symbol of identity in the school of Shanhai, able to travel through the tomb of myriad beasts, enter the western sea grotto, and arrive at the vicinity of the school of Shanhai's territory. This bracelet can summon 2 white bone beasts to fight for you, owner. Li Qiuyu. Gu Qingshan casually threw the metal bracelet away, then put on the bone bracelet. He looked down at the bottom of the cliff, then leapt down. The wind howled. On the walls of the cliff, countless skeletons gave off a terrible and cruel presence. The presence was rushing towards Gu Qingshan. At this point, the white bone bracelet glowed faintly. Through this faint light, numerous powerful thoughts swept past Gu Qingshan's body, then moved away, allowing him to continue falling. All of a sudden, there was a flash of light. Gu Qingshan felt the world spinning around him. The scenery around him abruptly changed as his feet fell into the water. A new world appeared. Gu Qingshan found himself standing in the middle of a boundless ocean. Above the surging waves of the ocean was a tall mountain hanging upside down. This mountain took up the entire sky, hidden within the misty clouds without any end in sight. Mountains and seas. School of Shanhai, so that's what it is, Gu Qingshan muttered. Splash! He fell into the water. Chapter 1302. Passing through the ocean and descending was a city. This city belonged to the school of Shanhai. Half an hour later, Gu Qingshan had gone through layers of inspection and stood in front of the big shots of this school. "This is that child?" a long-bearded man in a white outfit asked. "Indeed, sir, exterminating divine hands, all the inspections have been done. His identity has been confirmed without a doubt," Li Qiuyu replied. "I heard that you gave him a name, Li Qiushan? Thousand Saints Blade Venerate. who was also Li Qiuyu's older brother, Li Chundao, asked. Indeed, Li Qiuyu replied. Isn't that a bit lacking in consideration? Li Chundao appeared dissatisfied. Sister, why did you just randomly pick a little brother? I only gave him a name after careful consideration, and he agreed. Li Qiuyu wasn't going to fall for her brother's trick, so she looked up to meet his glare and glared back. Brother, you don't know how good this kid's cooking is. No, I'm saying. His talent after spirit linking is truly outstanding. The brother and sister exchanged glances. Another man with a sword on his back turned to Gu Qingshan and asked, Child, let me ask you, why did you suddenly have Zhao Qiong kill Steward Lu when you were still in the school of Feiyu? Gu Qingshan had already noticed this man. He was also a swordsman, and his presence wasn't weak at all. The sword on his back was clearly not a normal one. There were 3 kinds of combatants in the Tomb of Myriad Beasts: Bone Masters, Spirit-linked martial artists, and weapon users. This man was clearly a weapon user. Gu Qingshan's hands were itching to try fighting him and experience his swordsmanship. But not yet. He lowered his head and spoke with a nervous and fearful tone. Because only the patriarch and elders of our school of Feiyu have the right to open the secret room, so Steward Lu's arrival was definitely wrong just because of that? The man continued to ask. Gu Qingshan continued. Furthermore, our school of Feiyu is situated right above the peach blossom forest. As far as I can remember, no fog has ever appeared at midnight for the past few dozen years, yet when Steward Lu opened the door, there was fog that came in, meaning that the situation outside was very unique, the man continued. So you noticed 2 things that weren't right. Yes, I think it's enough, Gu Qingshan said. The man praised, You're quite smart. No wonder you were able to come back alive from the battlefield. That was the end of his question. Suddenly, an ethereal female voice rang out, Li Qiushan, have you noticed any changes in yourself recently? In the void, a woman in a dark red robe descended from the sky and stood in the middle of the crowd. She was extremely beautiful. Her eyes were like the reflection of the moon in a deep pond. She had red lips and snow-white skin. Her long hair was like a waterfall, and there was a faint starlight between her eyebrows. Li Qiuyu pulled on Gu Qingshan's sleeves and gestured with her eyes for him to quickly bow. Everyone present bowed their heads and said, Greetings, Sovereign. When Gu Qingshan saw this, how could she not know who it was? This woman was the sect master of the school of Shanhai, a legendary figure within the 8 grottos, Shanhai Chi Xia. Gu Qingshan respectfully bowed. Yes, there are some strange characters on my hand. Everyone turned to look at his hand, but couldn't see anything. When did you notice this? Shanhai Chi Xia asked again. I used to practice fist techniques and archery. Recently, when I had nothing to do, I practiced a fist technique. Then those runes appeared, Gu Qingshan replied. This was the truth, so he wasn't afraid of the other party checking it. Gu Qingshan then swung his fist. A series of runes could be faintly seen on his hand. Everyone fell silent. That's a bit too casual, the sword-bearing man sighed. Indeed, a bit too casual. Is it really that simple to become a spirit-linked martial artist? Li Chundao followed up, then asked. The long-bearded, white-clothed man replied, Not at all. Back then, I went through many procedures, including bathing, fasting, burning incense, applying many secret medicines to my palms, then reciting the martial scripture for 3 days and 3 nights before I was able to activate my spirit-linked destruction palm, an old man said. This old man has only heard of a single person like that in my entire life. Who? Shanhai Chi Xia asked. Dean, he was the founder of our school of Shanhai, your father, the old man replied. Unfortunately, he had already died in the Great Tomb. Shanhai Chi Xia felt a bit dejected. Everyone turned to Gu Qingshan. This brat, could he really have such terrifying talent? Or could it be, the power of his spirit linking had already surpassed the understanding of this world? The atmosphere slowly became a bit strange. After waiting for a few moments, Shanhai Chi Xia spoke up. Li Qiu-shan, with your current state, you've officially become a spirit-linked martial artist. Ah, then what should I do now? Gu Qing-shan asked, not fully understanding. Shan Hai-chi-xia reached out her jade-like hand, held it straight in front of herself, and lightly said, "Come, use that spirit-linked fist technique of yours and strike me once," but Senior Zhao said that I might trigger the apocalypse. Gu Qing-shan replied. "It's fine, we're all here. There's no need for you to be afraid," Shan Hai-chi-xia replied. Gu Qing-shan walked forward and struck her palm. Other than a clear sound of impact, nothing else happened. Everyone was a bit disappointed. "All right, it seems like you haven't shown much of its power yet. Let's talk about it later," Shan Hai-chi-xia said. Gu Qing-shan thought about it a bit. He didn't feel like hiding his strength anymore, nor did he feel like pretending to be a young man who doesn't know anything in the future, so he directly said, "This spirit-linked fist technique of mine, it seems I need a second strike to use it." Li Qiu immediately reminded him. "Damn brat, you've already told us all your trump cards. Who's going to be hit by your first strike from now on?" Li Chundao scolded. "So long-winded, do you think people like us would casually spout nonsense?" He then told Gu Qing-shan, "Just don't do it again, it's best not to casually talk about things like this." Gu Qing-shan understood their good intentions, so she smiled and replied, "It's fine, this is only the first form of my spirit linking. Do you think you'll be able to block the divine skill Skyfall just because you know? Lightning, Dream Jolt? Shout my name? Or force me to use my sword? Dance?" Everyone here had gone through countless trials and tribulations and seen many things, so someone immediately said, "So you need to hit the first strike to activate spirit linking. That's a bit high." Everyone understood. "So that's how it is," Shan Hai-chi-xia casually said. 9 rays of light slowly manifested behind her back, circling around her without stopping. "Come, your second strike," Shan Hai-chi-xia said. At this point, Gu Qing-shan instead felt a bit worried and said, "Please be careful, this strike seems to be quite powerful. Although it won't hurt you, it might be able to damage some of the techniques on your body." Everyone chuckled. Li Qiu glared at Gu Qing-shan, then said, "Don't speak carelessly, you should worry more about yourself. If the dean wants to block your strike, he wouldn't need to put up any defenses." Unexpectedly, as Shan Hai-chi-xia heard Gu Qing-shan's words, she pondered for a bit, then formed a hand seal with her other hand. The 9 rays of light flew back to her back and turned into millions of colorful rays, illuminating her like a goddess descending to the mortal world. "It's fine now, come," Shan Hai-chi-xia said. Gu Qing-shan swung her fist and heavily struck her hand. This was the power of that entity's inheritance. Martial spirit linking. Inch desolation. The fist and the palm collided, and in an instant, all the colorful lights disappeared like clouds blown away by the wind in the blink of an eye. The countless accessories around Shan Hai-chi-xia's body all cried out in pain, flickered briefly, then fell silent. The ground began to tremble. "Oh oh ong! Oh oh oh!" A heavy cry resounded from deep underground, resounding in every direction. "This strike can break through countless defenses, not good." Shan Hai-chi-xia's expression changed. "The divine spirit-linking beast has awakened." Extinguishing saintly hands, old man embracing bones, hurry and follow me to the bottom of the cave to appease the spirit of the mountain guardian. Yes. The white-clothed long-bearded man and the other old man responded, then followed Shan Hai-chi-xia and disappeared from the room. The room was completely silent. Everyone else was staring at Gu Qing-shan. This kind of gaze Gu Qing-shan shrugged, feeling that these people were going a bit too far. "Why are you looking at me like that? I'm just a bumpkin youngster. If you want me to punch, I'll punch. There's no point in looking anymore." A long while later. "Very well, you may leave now and wait outside," Shan Hai-chi-xia said. Gu Qing-shan stood up, bowed to the bigwigs, and left the room. As he left, he heard them discussing the matter of Zhao Qiong's promotion. Quite obviously, the school of Shanghai had already gone through who knows how many times to verify the matter regarding him, so they didn't find any issues with it. So these bigwigs appeared to be very relaxed. Those 2 strikes were an accident. As for what this accident would bring to Gu Qingshan, he didn't know for now. Gu Qingshan was waiting outside the door. Li Qiuyu and Zhao Qiong were both still inside, and the bigwigs of the school hadn't finished their meeting yet, so he had no choice but to wait here. Bored to death, Gu Qingshan looked up at the sky. Rather than the sky, it was actually an azure ocean. Above the ocean wasn't a sky, but a mountain. What about the top of the mountain? Most likely, it wasn't the sky, but the tomb. TCA. What a wondrous world. Gu Qingshan looked around. Under the illumination of the water, the buildings of this city were all painted black, giving off a mysterious and solemn feeling, giving off an indescribable sense of security. A few moments later, Zhao Qiong and Li Qiuyu finally came out. Li Qiuyu took Gu Qingshan's hand and pressed a handful of yellow sand onto his bone bracelet. The yellow sand slowly entered the bracelet and turned into a golden color. What is this? Gu Qingshan asked. This is sand, I know it's sand, what is it used for? Li Qiuyu stroked his head and explained. It's proof of identity for newcomers. You can enter the study lodge to study, Gu Qingshan asked. Then, I'm now a member of the study lodge? From now on, I have to enter the study lodge and study with others? No, you don't have that much free time, so you can only go when you're free, normally. Li Qiuyu displayed a playful smile and said, Welcome to becoming a Wind Listener. From now on, you can follow Big Sister and carry out various missions, Wind Listener? Gu Qingshan instinctively repeated that. Zhao Qiong explained. This is a branch of our school of Shanghai that specializes in investigating mysteries and secrets. It's highly valued. Li Sanlang, do your best. Chapter 1303. The gentle sound of a wind chime reverberated in the bedroom. Ah, not enough sleep. Li Qiuyu yawned, got up from the bed, put on a random robe, and walked towards the dressing room and the changing room. She suddenly stopped. Va? What is this smell? It smells so good. Li Qiuyu left the bedroom and went to the kitchen. A skinny young man wearing an apron was cooking. The buns were already steamed, accompanied by 7 side dishes, a pot of porridge, 2 bowls of spicy red oil, as well as a plate of peeled fruit. Li Qiuyu reached out with 2 fingers, picked up a bun and took a bite. The juices flowed freely. So good. Then she ate the side dishes. Crisp, sour, spicy, each with their own flavor. She couldn't help but want to eat the porridge. How can porridge taste so good? I feel like there's a bit of seafood in it, it's so good. She picked up a pair of chopsticks, picked up some powder from the red oil and swallowed it in one gulp. Sure enough, spicy is the best. Followed by fruits of various colors, juicy and refreshing. Li Qiuyu silently put her chopsticks down, stunned for a few moments. She suddenly reached her hand out and rubbed Gu Qingshan's head, saying, Li Sanlang, if you're 10 years older, I'll marry you. Gu Qingshan protested. How can you be like this, running out to eat without even putting on your clothes? Aren't you afraid of being exposed? You dare to come closer? Be careful or I'll beat you up. Li Qiuyu giggled as she ran back, dressed up, and changed her clothes. Gu Qingshan froze, feeling a bit annoyed. That's right, I don't dare to come closer. But I have inner sight, I didn't know you'd run out like this. A few moments later, when Li Qiuyu reappeared in front of Gu Qingshan, she had turned back into the beautiful woman she used to be. At this point, Gu Qingshan had already placed all the food on the table, then went to brew a pot of tea. A basket of buns, 7 side dishes, 2 bowls of porridge, 2 bowls of spicy red oil, a plate of fruit, and a pot of tea. Li Qiuyu swallowed her saliva and said without thinking, You're using these snacks for breakfast? Time is tight in the morning. Don't expect me to make a big meal in the morning. Gu Qingshan warned sternly. That's fine. I usually go out and find a noodle restaurant to eat. This time, I can eat at home. Li Qiuyu sighed. Hey, when can my accommodation application come in? We're a single man and a single woman, it's not a good idea to live together. Gu Qing Shan reminded. TSK, TSK, TSK. A young man who hasn't even kissed a girl yet dares to talk about a man and a woman in front of me? Li Qiuyu rolled her eyes and looked at him with disdain. Kiss? How could he talk about such a simple matter? Gu Qing Shan puffed out her chest and said proudly, Can you not look down on me? It's just that I have my own things to do, so I haven't been idle. That's right, busy being a regular follower. Right, little brother, have you really been in a relationship before? I heard that in a rural place like yours, it's already very early to get a wife. Why do I feel like you're still a… Li Qiuyu took a sip of porridge and didn't finish her sentence. Gu Qing Shan froze. This woman is so boring. I don't want to talk to you about that, I'm only staying here for a few days. Once my personal abode is approved, I'll move out, he said with a serious expression. Li Qiuyu glanced at him, then continued to eat her steamed bun without saying anything. You want a personal abode? That's hopeless. Who told you to have such a terrifying spirit-linked fist technique? That punch almost scared the entire upper echelon to death. Even the guardian spirit of the school that was entrusted to the sect master was scared to death by that single punch of yours. If we don't find someone specifically to look after you, do you think everyone will be able to sleep well at night? Think about it from another perspective. If one day you manage to link your spirit and create a follow-up fist technique, what if you alert the sealed apocalypses or people from other schools? Do you think you'll still be able to grow? This old lady volunteered to look after you. I really don't know how many lifetimes worth of good fortune you've accumulated. Li Qiuyu happily savored the spicy powder while saying a bunch of things to him. She then took a few more slices of fruit and began to eat them. Wait a minute. Hey, Sanlang, you've made so much food, I'm not going to get fat, am I? She hesitantly asked. Gu Qing Shan was currently drinking tea, silently summarizing what she learned from making this morning's breakfast. Hearing that, she lifted her chin and replied, They're all slimming ingredients, I've specifically researched them, don't worry, you're also researching this? Li Qiuyu was surprised. Some people like to eat, but are afraid of getting fat, so I've been researching this aspect of cooking, Gu Qing Shan replied. Saying so, he poured a cup of tea for Li Qiuyu. Have a cup after eating, it's good for your skin, and also helps you feel refreshed. Only someone of my skill could make this kind of tea, he muttered. Li Qiuyu received the tea, smelled it, took a sip, paused for a bit, then drank it all in one go. She looked at him from top to bottom, feeling that this young man really is. Sighing, Li Qiuyu muttered, Li Sanlang, I'll say it again, if you're 10 years older, I'll really marry you. The young man seemed to have thought of something as his expression became tense and hurriedly waved his hand. Don't. Please don't. Li Qiuyu froze. What kind of reaction is this? Am I not good looking? That can't be right, there are people from every major sect in the 8 grottos of this world chasing after me. She suddenly thought it through and smiled. Do you think your status is too low, that you're not good enough for me? The young man shook his head and spoke with a serious expression. No, I'm just advising you to give up on such thoughts as soon as possible. A woman like you is too unnecessary for me, you'll only cause trouble. In short, even after 10 years, I still won't consider you. The room went silent. Li Sanlang. How arrogant of you. Hey, why are you pinching me? Half an hour later. The study lodge. Li Qiuyu pushed him into the classroom, scoffed, then turned around and left. Gu Qing Shan had no choice but to stand in front of the classroom and spoke to the other students of the same age. Hello everyone, I'm Li Qiuyu from the Eastern Desolate Grotto. My hobby is to study. Silence reigned. The students all stared at him. Everyone was attracted by his bruised and swollen face. This child looks a bit too pitiful. Did he run into a tree? Was he robbed? Or did he run into an apocalypse? Gu Qing Shan shrugged and found a seat at the back of the room. Brat, you're Li Qiuyu? A male student with an air of ruffian asked. Ah, that's right, Gu Qing Shan politely replied. Was that Lady Li Qiuyu just now? another male student with tattoos all over his body asked. That's right, it was her, Gu Qingshan replied. The other male students went to whisper to each other. A few moments later, a white-haired old man walked into the classroom and stood on the podium. Very well, this morning was supposed to be a combat class, but your teacher was temporarily away on a mission, so now we're going to have a history class. Ah. The students all let out a disappointed sigh as if they had lost all their air. Some of them left right away, some laid on their desks, some took out a few books and passed them around. In short, no one had any hope for this class. Gu Qingshan was also a bit disappointed. Originally, she heard that they were going to teach the basics of combat for the 3 professions today, but it turned into a history class instead. The old man didn't care about the students' reactions, cleared his throat, and began to recite from the book. About that, we talked about the branches and structure of the school last time. 2,700 years ago, our school of Shanhai's sect master divided the school into several parts according to their authority: wind listeners, in charge of mysteries and secrets, roaming the world, serving as scouts in times of war, participating in apocalyptic research to enter the Great Tomb, book researchers, researching all mysteries scattered from the Great Tomb, roaming the world, protecting the school's books and secrets. Protected personnel in times of war, participating in apocalyptic research to enter the Great Tomb, exorcist. Let's not talk about that, all of you want to become an exorcist and fight against the apocalypse. As for our study lodge, it's a place where we teach you various knowledge, cultivation, and basic secrets. Gu Qingshan listened for a bit, paid attention to it, then thought about it. This isn't really knowledge, I'll find out sooner or later anyway, so she stopped listening. He sat there, lightly rubbing the bruises on his body. I've only told her everything, does she really need to be so emotional? She's so cruel, doesn't she remember that I'm still a child right now? Thinking about it, I was a bit panicked at the time, so I didn't think things through properly. Back when I first joined Bai Hua sect, Shifu had told me not to offend powerful and beautiful women. How could I have forgotten that? While he was silently regretting it, the ruffian boy from before loudly said, "That's already been taught twice, can't you change it to something else?" The students all cheered. The old teacher smiled, flipped a few pages of his book, then said, "Since you already know, then we'll talk about the fusion of the Tomb of Myriad Beasts. This time, 9,000 years ago, our Tomb of Myriad Beasts had fused 99% of the animal realm's fragments. From then on, neither the Wraith realm nor the Azura's era of eternal war dared to bully us. Can anyone tell us why?" The students were all dispirited, too lazy to answer him. Only a little fatty was called out, so he reluctantly stood up and casually pointed above his head. "Isn't it because we fused a great tomb? Old teacher, we've already talked about this many times. Can you tell us about the recent deeds of Sir Extinguishing Saintly Hands, Sir Banishing Sword Saint?" The students cheered again. "That's a good answer, let us continue." This time, the old teacher wasn't willing to change the topic, so he looked down at his book and continued reading. Gu Qingshan looked up, then stopped what she was doing. What exactly are you talking about?" He sat up abruptly and became rapt. Chapter 1304. In the classroom, the students couldn't even stand up straight, obviously not interested at all. The old man didn't care about the situation below him and continued to recite from the book. When the great tomb appeared, countless corpses and blood rained down from above. In the underground world of our Tomb of Myriad Beasts, trillions of corpses appeared out of nowhere, giving off a fearsome presence. Fortunately, we were originally people of this world. Through our connection to the world, we were able to pass through the world's natural barrier and freely travel between the grottos. If people from other worlds came here, they would only die within the presence of the countless corpses and bones. For the past several thousand years, we've studied the apocalypse bit by bit, destroying the simplest apocalypses and sealing away the rest. But against the particularly powerful apocalypses, we would only be able to survive. That's why you need to quickly grow up, alright? Next, I'll talk about the main writers of history, how they described the various apocalypses. The dark apocalypse is an apocalypse that completely loses sight and perception. Today's class ends here. Dismissed. The old man closed his book, turned around, and left. The students all felt like they just woke up from a dream. Is that all? One of them asked with a drowsy look. Yes, let's go back and eat, another person stretched his back and said. The students quickly left the classroom. Gu Qingshan sat in his seat for a while longer. He had never heard of this knowledge before, so even if the old man was only reciting from the book, he still listened with great interest. However, regarding the apocalypse, trillions of corpses, and the great tomb, the old man only gave a brief description without mentioning the truth or secrets within. That sounds like nothing more than scratching an itch. Gu Qingshan sighed. In the tomb of myriad beasts, secrets and mysteries are the most valuable things, so they wouldn't be casually told to newbies in such a basic class. Seems like I'll have to think of another way to obtain information as soon as possible. I've already become a wind listener, specialized in finding out secrets and mysteries, so I might be able to put some effort into this. He pondered for a bit, then slowly stood up and prepared to leave. It's almost noon, so I need to go back and rest, since I still have classes in the afternoon. As soon as he reached the classroom door, he was blocked by a group of people. Gu Qingshan looked at him. The rascally-looking young man from this morning, as well as a few guys covered in tattoos, surrounded Gu Qingshan. What are you guys doing? Gu Qingshan asked with a smile. Could it be that this group of teenagers wanted to bully a newcomer? Then Gu Qingshan clenched her fist. The group of youths winked at each other, but they didn't make a move. Instead, they exchanged looks. Hello, Brother Shan. They shouted in unison. Oh my, Brother Shan, we finally have a boss after you came, the rascally young man said. A young man with a ferocious expression replied. That's right, our school of Shanghai's most vicious bigshot is Li Chundao, as well as the most enchanting female bone master Li Qiuyu. Both of them are renowned across the world. Who would have thought that you're their younger brother? All the teenagers said in unison. Please be our boss, Brother Shan. Gu Qingshan was stunned. So it wasn't a fight, be your boss, he repeated. That's right, with Brother Shan's arrival, our reputation will be much better. We'll all welcome Brother Shan at noon today, another young man said. Please do us the honor, Brother Shan. Please do us the honor, Brother Shan. Gu Qingshan scratched his head and smiled appropriately. He didn't mind interacting with people of the same age as him, as that would make him appear more normal. Not to mention, it was only a meal. That's not a good idea. I've made you spend a lot of money, he said. Another young man replied. It's fine, we still got quite a bit of money from those cowards last time. Don't worry, Brother Shan, everyone laughed. Gu Qingshan's smile slowly faded. You got money? How did you get it? He asked. The rascally young man replied. We protected them, so they gave us their money to show their gratitude. After all, we're stronger than them. Another young man loudly shouted. That's right, powerful people naturally deserve a certain level of privilege. For example, someone like Brother Shan should naturally be the boss of our study lodge. The young men all spoke at once, full of vigor. Gu Qingshan sighed. I'm sorry, but if you're capable, go and earn your own money. I'll probably accept your treat. If it's that kind of money, I won't go. He reached his hand out, lightly pushed the people in front of him away, and headed outside. Silence. The young men exchanged glances. What does that mean? Suddenly, someone complained. Who would have thought Li Chundao's younger brother would be such a good student? Looking down on us, Gu Qingshan stopped. I do look down on you. He looked at the young men and sincerely said, Great power isn't used to bully the weak, because bullying the weak is very easy. So easy that it creates a false sense of power. But because of that, there's a special title for doing this. Thugs. Before giving yourself this title, I hope you've made a serious choice. A person who can be called strong should face true challenges, such as giving up on everything else and focusing on honing your skills, walking the world and challenging peerless combatants, all for the sake of surpassing everyone else, standing at the true peak to look down on all living beings, or to triumph against the apocalypse that brings despair to all living beings, swearing to protect those who are worth sacrificing their lives for. This is the life of a combatant who is worthy of their title. All of you, I hope you'll use your own money to treat me in the future. That way, I'll probably accept you calling me Brother Sean. He waved his hand and disappeared from the classroom. The young men were completely silent. He doesn't allow us to call him Brother Sean right now? One of the young men asked in confusion. At the same time, a secret room. Several big shots were drinking tea, silently listening to Gu Qingshan's words. TSK, at such an impulsive age, he doesn't rely on the two of you to bully others. The silver-haired old man praised him a few times. What a fine young man, even I'm a bit tempted. How about putting him into my exorcist team? Li Chundao said. Don't even think about it. It's already been decided that you'll be a wind listener. This was decided by the sect master, the long-bearded white-clothed man replied. Li Chundao cracked his neck a bit, then silently placed a blade on the table. The white-clothed man narrowed his eyes. You want to fight? My palm of annihilation can't be used on my own people, so I won't fight you. If you're so good, go ask your younger sister if she'll let him go or not. Li Chundao looked at his younger sister, already prepared to have a big argument. But this time, his younger sister was surprisingly calm and lightly said, Bro, don't make a fuss, I'm currently his guardian, I can take good care of him in the wind listeners, you're so busy every day, where would you find the time to take care of him? Li Chundao scowled and said nothing. A few moments later, he took a sip of tea then sighed. Fine, there's another place I need to put out the fire, I'll be going first. He put away the long saber on the table and disappeared in a flash. A female voice called out. From the situation just now, I can rest assured about this child. I'll leave him to you from now on. Chiu Yu, please take care of him. Yes, sect master. Gu Qingshan returned to his living quarters. Opening the door, he saw Li Qiu sitting on the edge of the balcony, staring blankly at the city outside. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then walked up and apologized. I'm sorry, I was only joking this morning, please don't take it to heart. Li Qiu turned around and glared at him. Don't talk nonsense, you only came back when I was starving to death. The atmosphere suddenly eased up. Gu Qingshan felt relieved and rolled up his sleeves. Breakfast was a bit simple, lunch should be a bit more extravagant, don't worry, it'll be ready very soon. He turned around and went to the kitchen. Gu Qingshan's cooking skills naturally didn't need to be mentioned. Even Qin Shaolu, a master of the 6 arts, was grinning from ear to ear, let alone Li Qiu. After the meal, Li Qiu didn't say anything else about marrying or not. She simply took out a piece of bone and put it on the table. What is this? Gu Qingshan curiously asked. This is the secret school of Shanhai's origin scripture. It can help you quickly activate the second spirit link. Seeing Gu Qingshan's confused expression, Li Qiu patiently explained. The first spirit link is to perform the spirit link with the origin of the inheritance. Occasionally, you'll run into incomprehensible and indescribable existences that might even lead to the apocalypse. Do you understand this? Gu Qingshan nodded. Li Qiu continued. The second spirit link won't be as dangerous, it's to stimulate your senses and help you communicate with the inheritance you've obtained to further improve your abilities. I understand, it's to help me quickly develop my inheritance, Gu Qingshan replied. Yes, that's it. Li Qiu pointed at the piece of bone and said, as soon as you touch this unique piece of bone, you'll be forced to activate the second spirit link and obtain a new fist technique, or perhaps some other ability. In short, no one knows what you've obtained, so I don't know what you'll obtain either. She took out her fan, lightly waved it, and sincerely said, Begin with me protecting you, you don't have to worry. Gu Qingshan then picked up the unique piece of bone and held it in his hand. I'm guessing it'll still be a fist technique, he smiled and said, but his voice suddenly stopped. Ho! He felt a powerful force coming from the bone shard and pushing him into the ground. The countless underground caves of the school of Shanhai, as well as the people inside, quickly retreated from both sides of him. He continued to fall and fall. Straight down. Gu Qingshan had already realized that he was currently only a soul, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to travel so deep underground. But isn't this spirit link item supposed to activate the inheritance? Where is it taking me? While Gu Qingshan was thinking, he suddenly noticed that he was no longer falling. A hurried voice abruptly resounded in his ears. Save me! Hurry! Chapter 1305. Hearing that voice, Gu Qingshan became cautious. Because this voice didn't sound like a human voice, but rather was composed of countless tiny voices. Gu Qingshan didn't know why he fell into this place, nor did he know where this voice came from. He looked around, only to see that this place was a barren wasteland. The ground was filled with jagged rocks of various shapes and sizes, no living creatures, only a single withered tree. Who are you? Gu Qingshan shouted. Get me out of here first, hurry! The voice urged him. As Gu Qingshan was about to say something, his consciousness suddenly blurred for a split second. He instinctively looked up and opened his eyes, only to see Li Qiuyu still sitting across from him with a fan in her hand. The mottled piece of bone had fallen from his hand onto the table. What happened? Li Qiuyu asked. What happened just now? Gu Qingshan asked in return. You suddenly fell asleep, Li Qiuyu replied. She muttered to herself. I've never seen such a spirit link before, to actually fall asleep. Gu Qingshan was surprised and fell into thought. Li Qiuyu understood that Gu Qingshan was currently experiencing the mysteries of this spirit link, so they tacitly didn't disturb him. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared in front of Gu Qingshan's eyes. Frowny face. You've completed the second spirit link. You've sensed a cloning technique from the inheritance. Night Cruiser. A night cruiser. When you enter a dream, your consciousness can manifest a clone. This clone can pass through all obstacles and reach any location. Once you scatter the clone, or if the clone is killed, you will awaken from the dream. Attention! This cloning technique can only be activated at night, and no one will be able to notice it when activated. Please practice more so that you will be able to master this doppelganger technique. Gu Qingshan was surprised. So there was such a thing as a cloning technique. In the past, Shifu had thousands of clones. A single person was a country. How enviable. Who would have thought that I would also have a unique cloning technique now? Li Qiuyu was watching him from the side. Seeing his faint smile, she asked, How's the spirit linking going? Gu Qingshan replied, I can sense it a little, but it seems like I need more practice before I can master it. Li Qiuyu nodded. No one will be able to grasp the power of a single spirit link. You will need to put in a lot of effort and hard work to fully grasp the inheritance. Is everyone the same? Gu Qingshan asked. That's right. It's the same for everyone. Even me, my brother, and even the sect master have to constantly practice and draw out that feeling from the inheritance. Only then can we completely grasp this power, said Li Qiuyu. Then I'll start practicing now. After saying that, Gu Qingshan leaned on the table and closed her eyes. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Li Qiuyu knocked his head and complained. Hey, you said you wanted to practice, why are you slacking off? Gu Qingshan said helplessly. Big sister, my inheritance can only be activated when I sleep. Li Qiuyu was stunned. It seemed like he really did fall asleep just now, then activate the spirit link inheritance. Gu Qingshan was leaning on the table again, adjusting to a more comfortable position and preparing to sleep. Looking at him, Li Qiuyu felt an indescribable sense of grievance. How can this be? Everyone has to work so hard. Do you think sleeping is enough for you? Hey, big sister, what is it now? If you're going to sleep, go back to your room and sleep. Gu Qingshan really did go back to his room. He took off his clothes, lay down on his bed, and quickly fell asleep. For a cultivator, controlling the state of their body was actually a very simple matter. Gu Qingshan could go several hundred years without any problems. Now that he was a Sumer Lord, he could even temporarily separate his soul vessel from his body without using a secret technique. But dreaming was a matter of fate, it had nothing to do with cultivation or ability. More importantly, he had only just arrived at the school of Shanhai last night, so he was naturally a bit cautious during the first night, thinking about many things and making many plans, so he stayed awake the entire night without sleeping. He had also been fighting for a very long time. From retrieving the twin swords Heaven and Earth from the age of old, returning to the 900 million world layers, convincing Lin to join his group, dealing with the backflow of the eternal abyss, reuniting with Lola, saving Boss, performing the dance with Zhang Young-ho and Yi Fei-li, developing his world technique, going to Calming Soul Country, going to the secret passage of the Dusty World, searching for the Soul Shrieker's weapon, then giving that shield to Zhang Young-ho, then the war of chaos. He had been through so much. Today, he finally had a reason to sleep. That night. No dreams. Early morning. How was last night? Li Qiuyu asked. Not good, it wasn't going well, Gu Qingshan scowled. Li Qiuyu's mood improved a lot and scoffed. I knew you wouldn't be able to grasp the trick. How could there be such a simple thing in this world, being able to link spirits while sleeping? I've never heard of it before, she muttered to herself as she left the kitchen and went to the changing room to find her clothes for today. Dong dong dong. Someone knocked on the door. As Gu Qingshan opened the door, he saw that it was Zhao Qiong. Senior Zhao, come in, he enthusiastically said. Zhao Qiong observed him from top to bottom and commented, You look a lot more spirited. I've always been spirited, Gu Qingshan replied. No, I can sense that you're very tired, but I don't feel that way today, Zhao Qiong stroked his head and smiled. She entered the room and greeted Li Qiuyu, who had just finished changing. Oh, it's Zhao Qiong. Stay for a meal, we can talk while we eat. Right, I still haven't congratulated you on your promotion, Li Qiuyu said. Promotion? Gu Qingshan looked at Zhao Qiong. Zhao Qiong's expression was a bit flushed as she awkwardly replied, Ah, that's right, I finally finished compiling the bone tome, then discovered you and that piece of scale, as well as saving the apocalypse together with the legendary sword Saint Gu. I actually didn't do anything at all, so I got promoted. Then, you're now, Gu Qingshan asked. Head bookkeeper, Zhao Qiong replied. Li Qiuyu added, Any higher and you'll be a manager at my brother's level, followed by the sect master. That's right, Gu Qingshan praised. The three of them sat down and ate breakfast together. After breakfast, Zhao Qiong took out a piece of bone and put it in Gu Qingshan's hand. This is a scripture that I specifically found for you. It contains all of the school's knowledge related to the spirit-linked fist technique. I hope it can be used as a reference. Gu Qingshan and Li Qiuyu exchanged glances. Thank you, Senior Zhao, I really do need this. Gu Qingshan solemnly put the bone away. Seeing that she could actually help him, Zhao Qiong couldn't help but smile. She then said goodbye and left. Li Qiuyu closed the door, then asked, Aren't you trying to find a way to practice sleeping right now? This thing shouldn't be of any use to you, right? Gu Qingshan replied, It will always be of help, even if it isn't now, it might be in the future. You're afraid that she'll be disappointed, aren't you? Li Qiuyu asked directly. When someone happily helps you, it's always out of goodwill, Gu Qingshan replied. Li Qiuyu glanced at him and said nothing else. The two of them silently drank their tea, tidied up their things, and left together. I'm going to check if there's any quests today. You go to school first. I'll call you if there's anything, Li Qiuyu said. Got it, Gu Qingshan replied. Do you remember the way to the study lodge? I do. Study well, don't be lazy. I know, I'm still going to improve every day. A few minutes later, Gu Qingshan once again arrived at the study lodge and found a place to sit down. Inside the classroom, all the students seemed very excited. According to the schedule, since yesterday's practical class wasn't completed, this class would be postponed until today. A few moments later, the old teacher who taught yesterday's history class slowly walked into the classroom. "Why is it you again?" one of the students called out. "That's right, it's clearly Teacher Lu's turn to teach us. I'm already missing practical class," another student complained. The old teacher didn't get angry, nor did he answer. He walked up to the podium, lightly placed his textbook on the table, then took off his hat and put it in front of his chest. He lowered his head. The classroom slowly fell silent. The youths finally realized something. They stood up one after another, lowered their heads, and began to mourn. The practical class teacher would never appear again. Chapter 1306. Noon. Gu Qingshan returned to his living quarters. He was still in charge of cooking, while Li Qiuyu was in charge of watching. "One of our practical combat class teachers is no longer here," Gu Qingshan reported while chopping vegetables. I know about that," Li Qiuyu replied. Gu Qingshan glanced at her. Li Qiuyu shook her head. "I can't say, these are the rules." "What rules?" Gu Qingshan asked. "If an apocalypse has yet to be fully understood, then the details of those who died in such an apocalypse cannot be revealed," Li Qiuyu replied. Gu Qingshan nodded to express his understanding. A few moments later, the dishes were ready. Li Qiuyu helped to set the table. The two of them sat down and began to eat. "This is for you," Li Qiuyu said. Gu Qingshan received it and saw that it was a certificate. Li Qiushan has completed his first spirit linking, currently communicating and learning from the inheritance he obtained. Specific method. Sleeping. I am Li Qiuyu, hereby certify. Her signature was on it. "What do I need this for?" Gu Qingshan asked. "A new practical combat class teacher has been chosen. You will have a practical combat class in the afternoon. You need to quickly communicate and obtain more spirit-linking inheritances," Li Qiuyu told him. Gu Qingshan understood and said, "You're afraid that if I sleep during the practical combat class, the teacher won't believe that I'm actually performing spirit-linking." He gave the certificate to her and asked, "Can you create a dark environment for me?" "You want to perform spirit-linking in the dark?" Li Qiuyu asked. "Yes, that's no problem. The study lodge has a few worlds that were destroyed by the apocalypse. There aren't many people in them, specifically for students to experience. As long as you dare to sleep in them, you can use them." She then added another line to the certificate. "Or requires a dark environment. Also, there's going to be a mission soon. You need to quickly increase your strength. A new member of the Wind listeners like myself can also go on a mission?" Gu Qingshan asked. "A flower in a greenhouse will never be able to face the apocalypse. Not to mention, that single punch of yours was able to break through all defensive techniques, so it might be very useful in certain situations. You're qualified to go on a mission now," Li Qiuyu said. Gu Qingshan nodded. The Wind listener collected all unusual news and secret. In fact, he had always been looking forward to going out on a mission. Halfway through the meal, a piece of bone suddenly appeared from the void of space and landed in front of Li Qiuyu. Li Qiuyu received the piece of bone, carefully read through its contents, then looked at Gu Qingshan. "I'm not coming back tonight." "What's wrong?" Gu Qingshan asked. Li Qiuyu said, "On an island near the Western Sea Grotto, a very special treasure appeared. Anyone who prays to it can have their flames descend upon them and devour them. There are two possibilities for that treasure. First, it is a battle-type treasure with immense power. Second, it is a parasite of the apocalypse." "So you're going to go on a mission?" Gu Qingshan asked. Li Qiuyu replied, "That's right, I'm going to investigate the situation and confirm this unusual news. I'm going to confiscate what should be confiscated and kill what should be killed. If I can't win, I'll call for the exorcist squad. Understood, be careful, Gu Qingshan said. He suddenly felt like he was acting too naturally and added, I've only learned a single spirit-linked fist technique. Would I be killed by some apocalypse as soon as I go on a mission? Li Qiuyu rolled her eyes and said, I'm here, what are you afraid of? Gu Qingshan sincerely replied, I am. During the afternoon class, all the students were pulled to the sparring field. The new practical combat class teacher was a veteran of the exorcist squad, so many of the students recognized him and couldn't help but feel a sense of reliability. Everyone was a bit excited. Combat. Using supernatural power to fight was everyone's dream. The teacher began to give his orders. There's no need for spirit linking today. Go over there and find an opponent for yourself. I'll be observing your skill and spirit linking level. Those who have just started spirit linking, come over here. You're a spirit linked weapon? Then go get your basic weapon secrets and practice more. You, since you're both bone masters, go to the bone room and sense more. While he was giving his orders, a piece of paper was given to him. Gu Qingshan. He gave Li Qiuyu's proof to the practical combat class teacher. The teacher looked at the proof, then at him with a very interesting expression. Li Chundao, Li Qiuyu, Li Qiushan. So this guy is the younger brother. But this method of spirit linking is a bit too ridiculous, but the brother and sister wouldn't spout nonsense about something like this. After a while, the teacher reluctantly said, Li Qiushan, come with me. Yes, Gu Qingshan replied. The teacher led him deeper into the study lodge. This place was surrounded by tall walls, slowly becoming less populated until there wasn't a single person in sight. At the end of the path, on a thick black wall, there were several tightly shut doors. The second door on the left is a nighttime apocalypse world. It's already been completely destroyed. The apocalypse has also been wiped out by us. It's very safe. Then I'll go in and sleep. The teacher thought for a bit, then continued. If you run into anything you don't understand during the spirit linking process, you can ask me when you wake up. Gu Qingshan bowed and said, Thank you, teacher. He took out a blanket and a cushion from the bone bracelet, waited for the teacher to open the door, then went in. The door closed behind him. Gu Qingshan looked around. This really was a nighttime world. Everything had been destroyed. There were no signs of life. The entire city was like a broken giant robot that collapsed on the ground, leaving nothing but a pile of rubble. Although the environment was a bit terrifying, Gu Qingshan felt very peaceful. Because there was nothing here, nothing could happen. He found a relatively empty place, laid down the bed on a collapsed metal wall. All right, let me study how to use this doppelganger, Yi Futian said. He muttered, laid down on the bed, and slowly closed his eyes. A destroyed world. Night fell. Only a single young man slept by himself. 10 minutes. 20 minutes. All of a sudden, Gu Qingshan felt himself waking up. But he knew that he was still asleep. This was a very wondrous feeling, indescribable. In this state there seemed to be something else in the world. Something that he couldn't notice when he was awake. Save me, a faint voice resounded from underground. Gu Qingshan was surprised. I'm in another world, so why can I still hear this voice? What exactly is this voice? With that thought in mind, he began to fall. Just like the last time, he directly plunged into the ground, passing through countless corpses, hard underground ores, lava, world barriers, and finally leaving the world of the apocalyptic night. He appeared beneath the school of mountains and seas and continued to rapidly descend. He continued to fall and fall. Straight down. Gu Qingshan realized that he was still only a soul, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to travel so deep underground. The so-called night cruiser can pass through countless obstacles and manifest at a certain location. But he can only manifest once in each dream. Last time I wasn't prepared for it, so I don't know what happened. This time I'll have to choose the right place. While he was thinking, his surroundings suddenly became clear. A desolate wasteland. The entire place was filled with jagged rocks of all shapes and sizes, with no living beings in sight, only a single withered tree. Gu Qingshan manifested his body far away in the wasteland. Who was it? Who was it that called for help just now? He asked. Hurry and save me. Gu Qingshan followed the voice, only to find that it came from the withered tree. Strange. This is the underground of the school of Shanhai. Why would there be a separate world with such a tree? What exactly are you? Gu Qingshan shouted. The voice suddenly chuckled and spoke in a low voice. A fellow from the future, witnessed by the greatest above the star crown, an ally of mine, and yet you don't know who I am? Gu Qingshan was stunned for a split second. You're someone from the eternal abyss? No, I am the abyss. Gu Qingshan's heart skipped a beat. The scene in front of him was truly too eerie. He tried the abyssal ring on his hand, but it didn't react at all. Hurry and save me, we'll talk after we get out, the voice urged him. Gu Qingshan went silent without saying anything. All of a sudden, he waved his hand. The twin swords heaven and earth appeared in his hand. Not too far behind him, a person appeared. A person with a sword on his back. Mobile version of the fastest updated website, M. Chapter 1307. Gu Qingshan didn't turn around. He simply held the twin swords heaven and earth and asked, Who are you? The sword-bearing man replied, I should be the one asking you that. After all, this is the sealed grounds of our school of Shanhai. I really don't understand how you managed to pass through the layers of seals and arrive here. His sword chi was as vast as the ocean, tightly locked onto Gu Qingshan's body, seemingly ready to unleash a fatal strike at any moment. Gu Qingshan smiled. Through inner sight, he could see the other party. When he tested his fist technique at Shanhai Chi Xia, he saw this sword-bearing man. The other party was the big shot of the school known as Banishing Sword Saint. So you are Banishing Sword Saint? He asked in return. A faint sword chi exuded from his body. He put the heaven sword away, wielded the earth sword with one hand, and casually swung it. His attitude angered the other party. I'm the one asking you. Banishing Sword Saint abruptly shouted. The sword on his back flashed and manifested into millions of flying swords that flowed like a great river across the sky, attacking Gu Qingshan with unstoppable momentum. Gu Qingshan raised her sword. Secret art, river-traversing iron sword. Countless sword images manifested on the earth sword, manifesting into a gigantic sword phantom that blotted out the sun, blocking the hundreds of thousands of flying swords in the sky. Clang 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 clang. A thunderous storm of strikes resounded, enough to make one's scalp go numb. However, no matter how the flying swords attacked with all their might, the gigantic sword phantom didn't budge at all. Very good, Gu Qingshan loudly praised. Sure enough, you are at the pinnacle of Sword Saint realm. If we were to truly fight, victory and defeat would be hard to say. Above the pinnacle of Sword Saint realm was the solitary sword realm. Their swordsmanship was about the same, not to mention that both of them had their own trump cards and trump cards, so if they were to fight, the consequences would be unimaginable. Banishing Sword Saint raised his hand. The millions of flying swords turned back into the same sword and returned to his hand. To be able to block 1,000 of my attacks with a single sword, you do have some skill in sword technique. However, a battle isn't just about sword technique. If you still don't behave, I can guarantee that you won't be able to leave the School of Mountains and Seas alive, Banishing Sword Immortal said. I want to have a try. Gu Qingshan still didn't turn her head and just said lightly. It was rare for him to meet a sword cultivator who used a sword, and one whose level of swordsmanship was about the same as his own. At this moment, his fighting spirit boiled in his chest. Banishing Sword Immortal's killing intent surged as he shouted, You're courting death. He moved his sword and split it into millions of swords again. Suddenly, a female voice sounded. Stop! Tens of thousands of rays of light descended from the sky, blocking the two of them. It was a red-robed, long-haired woman with starlight shining between her brows. The master of the school of Shanhai Chi Xia. Then, a man with 10 long sabers on his back, a bearded middle-aged man dressed in white, and a smiling old man appeared behind her. Thousand Saints Blade Venerate Li Chun Dao, extinguishing saintly hands Zhang Jiu Bai, embracing Bones Old Man Su Yu Hai, as well as banishing sword immortal Wang Shun. The VIPs of the entire school of mountains and seas had all arrived. Wang Shun sheathed his sword and respectfully said, "Dean, you've arrived." Shan Hai Chi Xia replied, then turned her gaze to Gu Qing Shan. She calmly said, "In the words of your cultivation world, Gu Qing Shan, fellow Dao Seeker Gu, for what reason have you come to my school of mountains and seas?" Gu Qing Shan sheathed her sword, feeling a bit regretful. Thousand Saints Blade Venerate already knew of her existence, so Gu Qing Shan wasn't surprised at all that Shan Hai Chi Xia could recognize her. Unfortunately, with so many people on the other side, it seems this sparring session between sword cultivators couldn't continue. Gu Qing Shan clasped her fist and said, "I was passing by your school today and sensed someone calling out to me, asking for help. I thought it might be someone I knew, so I came to take a look." Everyone exchanged glances. "You've come to the deepest sealed area of our school?" Shan Hai Chi Xia's gaze flickered, then said, "Earlier in the eastern desolate grotto, fellow Dao Seeker Gu acted to eliminate an unknown apocalyptic monster and saved countless people. This was related to my school of mountains and seas, so I should be thanking fellow Dao Seeker Gu, but how did I sneak into your school all of a sudden?" Gu Qing Shan smiled and asked. "Indeed, please explain to me, Your Excellency," Shan Hai Chi Xia replied. Gu Qing Shan thought for a bit, then said, "How about this? What exactly does this place of yours do? Tell me about it. Perhaps we might be able to work together to accomplish something." Shan Hai Chi Xia fell silent. The other party didn't answer my question, but instead asked me another. "This guy who single-handedly fought against 3 deities in the age of old, has he always been this strong?" Thousand Saints Blade Venerate Li Chun Dao suddenly said, "Sword Saint Gu, you're alone. Do you really think you can escape from under our noses?" Gu Qing Shan replied, "Escape? I won't escape, but if I want to leave, you won't be able to stop me." He suddenly sighed, and with a sincere expression, he said, "There's no need to point your sword at me. I really want to figure out what's going on here. After all, the one who called for help could see through my identity. In truth, Your Excellency's background can be easily known by any world that collects information from the infinite worlds. Why would Your Excellency care about an unknown entity?" Old Man Embracing Bones Su Yu Hai asked. Indeed, this was the most suspicious part. Gu Qing Shan wasn't a nameless individual, so it was normal for others to know his background. Yet he used this as an excuse to say that an acquaintance called for him. Just because someone recognized him as Gu Qing Shan, he snuck into the deepest sealed area of the School of Mountains and Seas. How could anyone believe such nonsense? Seeing their expressions, Gu Qing Shan also understood. This school had always been fighting against the apocalypse. These people, worthy of admiration. With that in mind, Gu Qing Shan said, "Very well, I'll tell you the truth. In the current era, no one knows who I am, nor where I came from. I can guarantee that none of you know this." Everyone exchanged glances. What exactly is he trying to say? Shan Hai Chi Xia's expression changed. "You're telling the truth. Are you not Gu Qing Shan?" "I am," Gu Qing Shan replied. "But you're saying that we don't know where you came from, when we clearly know that you came from the age of old." Shan Hai Chi Xia's voice abruptly stopped. She fell into thought, then turned to Gu Qing Shan after a long while. Gu Qing Shan pointed at the withered tree not too far behind him and said, "I'm only passing by, yet it already knows where I came from, so please tell me its secrets. I know that secrets are very valuable in your world, so I can use a few secrets to trade with you." Shan Hai Chi Xia thought for a bit, then said, If you can show some sincerity, this isn't impossible, Dean. Banishing Sword Saint Wang Shun worriedly called out. Shan Hai Chi Xia shook her head and said, Sword Saint Gu is indeed not afraid of the current situation, so it's best that we be a bit more pragmatic. Furthermore, Sword Saint Gu had helped us before, so he shouldn't be an evil person. Our school of Shan Hai would naturally be more than happy to have another friend. Hearing that, everyone thought about it and agreed. This person came without a sound or a trace. None of the defensive measures could trap or trigger him. In any world, any organization, if they offended such a person, they would most likely have a headache. The dean is trying to turn this from a bad situation to a good one. It all depends on whether or not Gu Qingshan is truly sincere in making a trade. To show sincerity, Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then asked, What secret do you want to know? We need to discuss this, Shan Hai Chi Xia replied. Go ahead, Gu Qingshan replied. Shan Hai Chi Xia casually created a soundproof barrier and discussed with the others. After a while, they finally came to a decision. Shan Hai Chi Xia dispelled the soundproof barrier, then smiled at Gu Qingshan and said, If Your Excellency is willing to trade secrets with our school, please first reveal Your Excellency's true identity. I can't tell you that, Gu Qingshan replied. Then, please tell us, which world did Your Excellency come from? I can't tell you that either. Who is your master? My apologies, I still can't tell you, everyone. Brat, you're playing with us, aren't you? Gu Qingshan smiled and replied. Ask again. I'll definitely tell you what I can. Shan Hai Chi Xia calmed herself down a bit, then asked, Is Your Excellency related to the Samsara? Gu Qingshan pondered. About that, everyone's hearts jumped. Gu Qingshan waved her hand and took out a single-horned skeletal staff from the void of space. This humble one is the Huang Quan Devil King, a deity of the Huang Quan realm. This much I can reveal, Huang Quan realm. The king of the dead. Everyone was shaken, their gazes moved back and forth on the bewitching and wicked scepter, unable to move away. Shan Hai Chi Xia quickly said, So Your Excellency is also a member of our samsara. Did Your Excellency appear this time to reform Huang Quan? No, my appearance this time is actually a secret. Other than you, no one else in the infinite worlds knows about it, Gu Qingshan continued. If I tell you, I hope that you can exchange the secret of that great tree with me. Shan Hai Chi Xia nodded. Very well, Gu Qingshan then said. I came out this time to destroy the Wraith realm. Chapter 1308. Destroy the Wraith realm? Forgive me for being blunt, but with Your Excellency alone, this might not be possible, Shan Hai Chi Xia replied. Everyone else also displayed expressions of certainty. Although Gu Qingshan became famous after that single battle, it would be impossible for him to win against the entire Wraith realm by himself. Gu Qingshan smiled and replied, Who said I was alone? Your Excellency has helpers? Banishing Sword Saint Wang Shun couldn't help but ask. Gu Qingshan replied, All the combatants of the 900 million world layers, all the abyssal monsters of the eternal abyss, the numerous combatants of order, as well as the servants and deities of chaos. Of course, there are also a few people whose identities cannot be revealed. Their power is beyond your imagination, but it will take a bit more time for them to participate in the war. Shan Hai Chi Xia exchanged glances with everyone else. Her gaze met Old Man Embracing Bones and both nodded. Both of them had different abilities to detect lies, so they had been carefully using them. Who would have thought that Gu Qingshan wouldn't utter a single lie? If it was true, then this matter couldn't be underestimated. Who would have thought the Sword Saint Gu Qingshan would have such a powerful force? No wonder the entire school's defenses couldn't stop him. What he's doing is related to the war between the Void and the Samsara. This will surely be a war with far-reaching consequences. It seems Gu Qingshan's evaluation will have to be raised by several levels. Your Excellency actually revealed such a shocking secret. Old Man Embracing Bones blankly muttered. Everyone's expressions tensed up. Who could have thought that Gu Qingshan would so casually reveal such a shocking secret? The entire void would hold its breath in anticipation of this war, because this war would surely affect the fate of all worlds. Gu Qingshan looked at the people in front of him, smiled, and said nothing. The situation he was talking about was in the future, after defeating the Soul Shrieker. Using the future as a metaphor for the past, Gu Qingshan's words were naturally not lies, and there were no flaws in them, so he wasn't afraid of these people using any methods to investigate. How could they have thought that this was something that would happen in the future? Your Excellency, are you truly just passing by our school of Shanhai? Shanhai Qixia cautiously asked. Now that things had come to this, she was worried that the other party might have some ulterior motives towards the school of mountains and seas. After all, the other party had gathered chaos and order, gods and abyss. Such a power was definitely not something that her school of mountains and seas could resist. It can be said that I came here by a freak combination of factors. In truth, I had no intention of joining your sect in the first place. I can absolutely guarantee this. While Gu Qingshan was explaining, both Shanhai Qixia and Old Man Embracing Bones slightly nodded. Shanhai Qixia's eyebrows relaxed. It was still the truth. My truth and lies detection technique is the most powerful detection technique in the entire tomb of myriad beasts, so to deceive me, one would need to be at least 10 times stronger than me. Not to mention, I've already seen Gu Qingshan's previous strike. This person's strength was about the same as his. Of course, he might have many tricks up his sleeves, but it was impossible for him to be 10 times stronger than him. While she was thinking, Gu Qingshan's voice resounded again. Very well, I've expressed my sincerity. Please tell me the secret of that withered tree. Sect Master of Shanhai Qixia nodded and replied. That withered tree is a third of the hair of the Lord of the Spacetime Mystery Nest, the enemy of the Eternal Abyss. Please continue, Gu Qingshan said. In the past, the Samsara fought endlessly, our tomb of myriad beasts. Wait a minute, Gu Qingshan cut her off. May I ask, what were the Samsara's struggles in the past? As soon as she asked this, Shanhai Qixia felt a bit more assured. So this Huang Quan Devil King truly wasn't interested in reorganizing the Huang Quan realm. She replied. The heavenly palace disappeared, Huang Quan collapsed, the human realm was nowhere to be seen, but humanity was scattered among the Wraith realm and Beast King realm, as well as the Azura in various broken worlds. Some of these worlds were quite close to each other, so for the sake of survival and strength, they naturally fought. Gu Qingshan nodded. It turns out that after the heavenly beings disappeared, only divine armaments remained in Huang Quan. The Wraith realm and Beast King realm had also disappeared. Only humanity continued to flourish within the samsara. This perfectly matched my deductions, so it should be true. Shanhai Qixia continued. In the past, our tomb of myriad beasts had been enduring until we fused with 99% of the Beast King realm fragments, becoming unprecedentedly powerful, to the point that the Azura and Wraith realm humans didn't dare to invade us. Who could have known that during the final fusion, a great tomb that spanned across the entire world would appear? When our ancestors explored the great tomb, they brought back powerful weapons and inheritances the very first time they did so. This secret couldn't be hidden and was known to the outside world. Countless powerful entities from the void came to investigate our world, but we were powerless to stop them. Who could have known that the great tomb would suddenly erupt with countless apocalypses, instantly killing those powerful entities? Even the Lord of the Spacetime Mystery Nest's entire body was destroyed by the apocalypse. Only this strand of hair managed to escape underground and reach our underground cavern. It wanted to take control of us and fuse us back into its body. We tried everything we could but couldn't destroy it, so we had no choice but to pay a heavy price to seal it away and trap it here. Hearing that, Gu Qingshan's gaze fell onto the withered tree. So this was actually a strand of hair, and a strand of hair from the enemy of the Eternal Abyss. No wonder it knew so much about my background. It must have sensed something from the abyssal ring I'm wearing. This isn't something that I can investigate. After all, the thought of a single eye from the eternal abyss was able to destroy the god of life. Even after being sealed, this strand of hair was still able to sense me and call out my background. These entities themselves have already surpassed my understanding, so there's no way to tell how powerful they are. While Gu Qingshan was thinking, lines of glowing text quickly appeared in front of his eyes. Frowny face. Attention, you've triggered the corresponding event requirement. Destroy the Lord of the Spacetime Mystery Nest's hair, completely erasing it from history, never to rise again. This is related to the fate of the infinite worlds within the void. After completing this step, you will receive countless causality feedback from the void, using it to activate the method to obtain the Void War God title. Gu Qingshan was surprised. This Void War God title quest hasn't been triggered for a very long time. Who would have thought that it would be triggered here? Is it because this monster is an entity from the void? Gu Qingshan silently guessed, but couldn't come to a conclusion. At this point, the withered tree's voice resounded in Gu Qingshan's ears again. You don't believe them, you should listen to me. I have a way to release the ring on your hand, turning it into your own power. You will become the strongest person in this world. As long as you let me go, I will repay you well. It continued to ramble on. Gu Qingshan raised the earth sword and silently asked, "How is it?" The earth sword's heavy mountainous voice resounded. This thing isn't easy to kill. With your current strength, you will most likely need 50 million soul points to activate Earth's choice. That much? Gu Qingshan asked in surprise. Indeed, it's because I came from the abyss that I have a chance of destroying it. Otherwise, no other weapon would be able to completely destroy it. It would definitely regenerate, the earth sword replied. Gu Qingshan went silent. I've already spent a lot of soul points. If I use another 50 million soul points, I won't even have 100 million soul points left. In exchange for the information regarding the Void War God title. What exactly is the value of this title? Is it worth it to do so? Gu Qingshan recalled what happened back then. At the time, I used a unique title. Enemy of Chaos, to obtain the information regarding the Void War God title. The War God UI also specifically reminded me that this was a title with the suffix of War God. No matter how I think about it, I only have a single title with the suffix of War God. Starflame War God. This title can activate the power of causality, which is very useful. Then, following that logic, the Void War God title shouldn't be any worse. Gu Qingshan's mind moved quickly, then finally asked, Sect Master, you spent so much power just to seal it away? That is indeed the case, Shan Haiqi replied. Gu Qingshan then asked, If I help you destroy it, do you have anything to pay me? Destroying it is an impossible task, Sword Saint Gu, Shan Haiqi replied. Gu Qingshan looked straight at her. Suddenly, two swords manifested behind Gu Qingshan's back. One sword was clear as autumn water, bright and sharp. The other sword was simple and unadorned, exuding an endless aura of destruction. The two swords flashed and instantly covered a distance of several dozen meters. The autumn water sword slashed through the air. Countless mystical runes appeared from the withered tree, but as the sword slashed, they all dimmed and faded into nothingness. After slashing once, the autumn water sword stopped in midair. The sword slashed downwards, then suddenly drew a circular arc in the air. The crescent-white sword phantom connected to form a full moon that enveloped the entire withered tree. The sword phantom abruptly erupted, shining as brightly as the sun in the sky. Secret art, full moon consecutive slashes. Earth sword's divine might, Earth's choice. Aarg, an ear-piercing scream resounded from the withered tree, instantly shattering all the rocks in the wilderness into dust. Amidst this scream, everyone was on the verge of collapsing. Fortunately, this scream only lasted for a split second before disappearing. The two swords returned to Gu Qingshan's back and disappeared into the void of space. The withered tree in the wilderness had disappeared. Lines of glowing text appeared in front of Gu Qing Shan's eyes. Frowny face, you've ended the fate of the space-time mystery nests, Lord. The path of War God has been opened. Attention, you need to eliminate 5 different Void monsters in order to unlock this War God unique title, Void War God. Chapter 1309. Gu Qing Shan's gaze wandered back and forth. Lines of glowing text were still flashing in the void of space. Frowny face, you've eliminated the final possession of the Lord of the Space-Time Mystery Nest. It will no longer be able to reappear from any fate or space-time. After a period of struggle, it will return to primal chaos, eternally disappearing from the infinite worlds. As you've only killed a third of its hair, the amount of soul points you've obtained is 40 million. Seeing that her soul points had increased by a large amount, Gu Qing Shan felt much more relaxed. Your Grace Gu Qing Shan, is this the power of the twin swords heaven and earth? Shan Hai Chi Xia asked. Not entirely, Gu Qing Shan replied. Shan Hai Chi Xia sighed emotionally. The infinite void, the infinite worlds, and beyond the samsara, there were still countless heroic figures. Even though the tomb of myriad beasts had fused with 99% of the Beast King realm's fragments, it couldn't claim to be the strongest world in the world for this very reason. Shan Hai Chi Xia pondered for a bit, then smiled. To be frank, our school of Shan Hai had to pay a great price to seal this thing away. Since you've helped us eliminate this monster, the only thing I can repay you with is a secret of equal value. Please tell me, your opponent, the one you wish to eliminate, the Wraith Realm, is actually inside the Great Tomb. Gu Qing Shan's gaze became focused. Ah, I recall that the Great Tomb seems to be located in your world. Why would they dare to come and cause trouble? He asked. Shan Hai Chi Xia replied. The Great Tomb is filled with countless dangers, making it impossible to enter. Fortunately, we discovered a burial site not too far away from the entrance, where a true wraith was buried. A true wraith. Gu Qing Shan's heart skipped a beat. The heavenly being, the Beast King, and the wraith had already disappeared, but who would have thought that the corpse of a wraith would be found inside the Great Tomb? Shan Hai Chi Xia looked at Gu Qing Shan's expression and continued. Surely you know what this means, so we've investigated from all sides, attempting to obtain the secret of the samsara before it was broken from the burial site. Even if we couldn't, we at least wanted to find out how that wraith died. Gu Qing Shan nodded. Shan Hai Chi Xia continued. We don't know anything about wraiths, so we don't know where to start. But after the Wraith Realm found out about this, the 3 Wraith Lords gave us an offer that we couldn't refuse. And now, they have joined us in excavating the burial site together with the Tomb of Myriad Beasts in order to unravel the secrets of that wraith. Hearing this, Gu Qing Shan pondered for a moment, then muttered, This secret is indeed very valuable, but you were once bullied by the evil spirits. Are you now willing to cooperate with them? Shan Hai Chi Xia smiled and replied, That was a matter of the age of old. Too much time has passed since then, and we're still living under the shadow of the Great Tomb and the Apocalypse. For the sake of survival, we naturally wouldn't refuse some business. Furthermore, there are often mutually beneficial dealings between us and the wraiths. Gu Qing Shan understood and said lightly, Yes, business is business. It's not good to bring personal emotions into it. He suddenly felt some kind of omen. This clone was about to disappear. The entire dream was about to end, so this clone was about to disappear as well. Gu Qing Shan nodded to Shan Hai Chi Xia and the others, then said, I still have something to do, farewell. Seeing that he was about to leave, Shan Hai Chi Xia said, If your excellency wishes to leave, please be careful, tonight will be. Before she finished, Gu Qing Shan's entire body scattered into clusters of mist, then completely vanished into the void of space. He disappeared without any warning. Everyone was shocked. Hurry and investigate. Shan Hai Chi Xia shouted in a low voice. Understood! The big shot's figures flashed and disappeared from behind her. A whole 15 minutes later. They returned one after another. How was it? Shan Haixia asked. There were no traces of him at any of the exits or passages, Li Chundao replied. None of the restrictive techniques or seals were touched. I've heard that cultivators would occasionally grasp a few thaumaturgies. Could it be that this is a thaumaturgy that we've never heard of before? Extinguishing saintly hands said. I've come across a few cultivator escape techniques and thaumaturgies. This isn't a thaumaturgy, old man embracing bones concluded. Everyone exchanged glances and couldn't help but fall silent. How exactly did he come and go? Shan Haixia fell into deep thought. Gu Qingshan woke up. His surroundings were dark. In this destroyed world, he was the only living person, sleeping in the ruins of a city. He yawned, rubbed his eyes, then turned his gaze towards the void of space. Lines of glowing text were notifying him. Frowny face, you've grasped the basics of Night Cruiser. Please maintain your current level. Practice this cloning technique as much as possible until you've fully grasped it. Once you've finished cultivating this cloning technique, the inheritance Day Cruiser will be unlocked. These lines of glowing text quickly disappeared after Gu Qingshan read through them. New lines of notification appeared. Frowny face, the path to Void War God has been opened for the next step. You must first kill the Void Monster. Judge of living beings' fate. Gu Qingshan froze. How could a monster have such a name? Before he could ask, the War God UI had given him a new option. Frowny face, to unlock this quest's description, you will need to pay 1,000 soul points. I'll pay, Gu Qingshan replied without hesitation. The Eternal Abyss, the Lord of the Space-Time Mystery Nest, and the Judge of Living Beings' Fate are entities of the same level with your power. Or rather, with the power of living beings as a whole, it is almost impossible to win against them. Countless years ago, when the Reality Gate was opened, the apocalypses that infiltrated from outside heavily wounded these monsters, giving rise to an opportunity. And now, you are at the place where they were defeated, so it is highly likely that you will run into them. This is your only chance to obtain the title of Void War God. Gu Qingshan looked around, then couldn't help but ask, you mean, this Judge of Living Beings' Fate was also killed by the apocalypse? The same as the Lord of the Spacetime Mystery Nest. He was still one breath away, the War God UI replied. His soul power was cleanly drawn away. So that's why, I was wondering why this quest would suddenly activate. It was originally an impossible quest, but now that those monsters have been crippled by the apocalypse, I finally have a chance, Gu Qingshan muttered to himself. What's the point of obtaining a title after defeating those monsters? Gu Qingshan was extremely curious. What the wraiths were doing also greatly attracted him. Dong dong dong. A series of knocks came from the door, interrupting his thoughts. A door opened from the void of space. The practical combat class teacher stood at the door. Class is over, Li Qiushan. Ah yes, I'll be right there. Gu Qingshan stood up, tidied up the bedding, and put it into the bone bracelet. How did your class go? Did you learn anything? The teacher asked. Quite a lot. Right, teacher, how can I quickly comprehend the inheritance of spirit linking? Well, there's no shortcut. You can only achieve it through hard work and perseverance. Got it? In other words, I need to sleep a lot. Ah, that's true, after school. Gu Qingshan returned to his room. The room was completely empty, not a single person was there. Li Qiu had left to carry out her mission. Gu Qingshan made himself a bowl of noodle soup, slowly ate it, then lay down on his bed. Since night hadn't descended yet, he couldn't perform a night cruiser, so he could only slowly think about some things. He had obtained too much information today, so he needed some time to think about it. The Wraith Realm and Tomb of Myriad Beasts are business partners, a cooperative relationship. No wonder those Wraith Realm humans ignored the visitors from the Tomb of Myriad Beasts on the battlefield. And then there's that great tomb. If there are wraiths buried inside, would there also be heavenly beings from the heavenly palace who died inside? All of a sudden, a series of hurried knocks on the door. Gu Qingshan jumped down from his bed and opened the door, only to see Zhao Qiong standing outside. "Senior Zhao, come in quickly," Gu Qingshan said. Zhao Qiong entered the room, stroked his head, and said, "Li Sanlang, Senior Li Qiu Yu isn't here. I'm here to protect you." "Protect me?" Gu Qingshan doubtfully asked. Zhao Qiong replied, "Yes, a unique apocalypse will appear tonight. It's very dangerous." Chapter 13:10. The sky slowly darkened. In the room, Gu Qingshan and Zhao Qiong were sitting across from each other. "A unique apocalypse? What will happen?" Gu Qingshan asked. Zhao Qiong handed her a piece of bone. "This is called the immovable armor. Take it, it will allow your soul vessel to remain motionless. That way, your soul vessel won't be taken away by that apocalypse," Zhao Qiong told her. Gu Qingshan received the piece of bone, only to see that it was filled with runes. "I've learned this in history class. We've already defeated quite a few apocalypses and sealed a few of them, so why would an apocalypse still appear within the school?" Gu Qingshan asked. Zhao Qiong replied, "Because this apocalypse can't be sealed, and it just so happened to land within our Western Sea grotto. Fortunately, it isn't too powerful, so we can only close one eye and wait for it to descend every once in a while," she began to seriously explain. "Half an hour later, the grudgeful spirit apocalypse will appear. This apocalypse will pick out your enemies from among the living beings who have already died, allowing them to appear in front of you again. All of your enemies will come to attack you together. For powerful people, this apocalypse is extremely dangerous. But you're only a child, so you should be fine. With my piece of bone protecting you, there shouldn't be any issues." Gu Qingshan paused briefly, then smiled. "Senior Zhao, have you eaten yet?" Zhao Qiong was surprised. "We're clearly talking about the apocalypse, why did it suddenly jump to eating?" "I haven't eaten yet, because your cooking is quite good. I decided to come here to freeload," she casually replied. Gu Qingshan said, "There's not much salt and vinegar left at home, since there's still half an hour left. Can you go to the end of the street and buy some for me? I'll use them for cooking." Zhao Qiong immediately stood up and said, "All right, just stay at home and don't run around. I'll be back after I buy them." She quickly went out to buy some spices and returned to the room, only to see Li Sanlang sitting there blankly with the piece of bone in his hand. "Ah, here's the salt and vinegar you wanted," Zhao Qiong said. Li Sanlang regained his senses and smiled. "All right, what would you like to eat tonight, Senior Zhao?" "Anything. Right, the noodles you made last time weren't bad. All right, let's eat noodles then." As they chatted, they began to busy themselves in the kitchen. A cat squatted in the corner, quietly watching this scene. After a while, when it was sure that everything was all right, it jumped out of the window. The cat didn't care about anything else. Like an orange afterimage, it dashed through the night. Very soon, it arrived at the edge of the school of mountains and seas. The seawater parted to form a path for it to enter the range of the ocean. He plunged into the sea. The orange cat sprinted upwards, crossed a long distance, and finally appeared on the surface of the ocean. It flew forward on the surface of the sea. Sometimes it suddenly disappeared, crossing thousands of miles. It kept moving forward, forward and forward. Finally, the orange cat arrived at a desolate desert. It slowly squatted down on a high sand dune and rested for a while. Shanu was disguised as herself and eating dinner with Zhao Qiong. Under the night sky, I turned into the orange cat and used the power of ghostly shadow of night to borrow a spotless jade from Adorable. Then, he used the Chao Yin's ability to control the sea to directly pass through the sea, away from the place where living beings could spy on him. And now, the vengeful spirit's apocalypse was approaching. The orange cat sighed and turned back into Gu Qingshan. The trillions of dead people had been returned to primal chaos by me, unable to return. Then, who would come? Gu Qingshan stood on top of the sand dune and silently waited. Half an hour had passed. Everything between heaven and earth slowly became blurry. as if another world had arrived from an extremely distant spacetime and overlapped with the entire Western Sea grotto. Within the blur, a certain figure slowly became clear. It once again appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. I didn't think this apocalypse would be able to travel through spacetime and summon you here, Gu Qingshan said. A female voice resounded. I also didn't think that a certain power would awaken me from my slumber. After a pause, the female voice turned into a resounding male voice. However, this apocalypse is truly too weak, summoning me in the form of a vengeful spirit. How am I supposed to fight against you? The Soul Shrieker. It was brought back to Gu Qingshan by the apocalypse. If such a scene were to occur in the school of Shanghai, it would most likely cause a huge commotion, with no one knowing how to resolve it. Gu Qingshan replied, You have the ability to absorb souls, victory or defeat is still uncertain. The Soul Shrieker didn't have any will to fight and shook its head. You have the Devil King Rod of Huang Quan. This statement directly exposed the situation. As a dead person, against the Devil King Warden Rod, the only way out was for their soul to dissipate. The Soul Shrieker stared closely at Gu Qingshan and slowly retreated. I'm leaving, Gu Qingshan. It spoke with its female voice. I will not enter reincarnation, nor will I be under your control. We will never meet again. Wait a minute, I have something to ask you, Gu Qingshan said. Ask. At first, I thought that you came from the abyss, a monster from the abyss, but then you joined chaos, which made me hesitant and uncertain as to where you came from, Gu Qingshan replied. From the abyss. No, the eternal abyss was originally an unparalleled existence within the space vortex. We were nothing but its vassals while retreating, the Soul Shrieker replied. Its figure was slowly becoming blurry, almost unrecognizable. Then what exactly are you trying to do? What is your ultimate goal? Gu Qingshan pursued. The Soul Shrieker stopped and replied. Even tiny insects like you are thinking of ways to become stronger. Why can't we entities of the void do the same? Ever since I gained consciousness, I've understood a certain truth. We entities of the void, only by becoming as powerful as the eternal abyss would we be able to obtain true freedom. To achieve this goal, I am willing to join anyone, to do anything, whether it is destruction or creation. As long as I am as powerful as the eternal abyss, I will do anything regardless of the cost. Unfortunately, I never thought that you would be related to the dusty world. This is the only place where I failed. Gu Qingshan silently listened, then suddenly asked, What kind of world is the dusty world exactly? The Soul Shrieker abruptly laughed. Do you think I would tell you? It spoke full of hatred. Gu Qingshan, there are countless secrets within the void. These secrets determine the fate of every single person, and I will never tell you the truth about the space vortex. Gu Qingshan's expression didn't change and continued to ask. Then let's not talk about anything else. I only want to ask you, now that you've awakened, if you won't enter the cycle of reincarnation, where will your soul go? The Soul Shrieker slowly stepped forward, slowly heading into the boundless void. It spoke with its male voice. I've strived for countless years, destroyed all living beings of the infinite worlds, but in the end, I'm still so weak and insignificant. It can be seen that my life has been a meaningless one. Whenever I think of this, my heart is filled with indescribable rage. It suddenly looked up and shouted, Primal Chaos. I am a living being who has given up on the cycle of life and death. Please allow me to return to nothingness. A boundless golden waterfall descended from above and enveloped the Soul Shrieker. Its body slowly faded away within this waterfall manifested by Primal Chaos. Primal Chaos was the origin of everything. Compared to all things, living beings, and worlds, it was the deepest mystery of the laws, the manifestation of everything. It wasn't in the realm of life, nor was it the realm of death, nor was it nothingness. It was the origin of everything, the most primal state of everything. If the Soul Shrieker entered Primal Chaos, its soul would no longer exist. Everything it was would be assimilated with Primal Chaos. The previous Lord of the Spacetime Mystery Nest was the same. Even if it had thousands of preparations and tricks up its sleeves, it would still be destroyed by a single strike from Gu Qingshan, returning to primal chaos, unable to return to any space-time. A female voice resounded. "Goodbye, Gu Qingshan, I never want to see your face that was constantly struggling to survive again." The female voice turned into a male voice. "Remember, I didn't lose to you, I lost to fate." The waterfall rose all the way to the sky, then disappeared without a trace. Everything disappeared, leaving only Gu Qingshan standing on top of the sand dune. He stood there for a long time. It wasn't until this apocalypse slowly faded away that he slowly spoke. "In truth, besides success and failure, there are many interesting and meaningful things in life. To protect these things, living beings will do things that you would never imagine. If you don't understand this, then you don't understand living beings. When the knell rings, it doesn't only ring for living beings, because all things have a beginning and an end, it also rings for you. But you don't even understand living beings, nor do you understand the connection between cause and effect, so you cannot win against fate. This is the true reason for your defeat." Chapter 13:11. It was late at night. Inside the room, Zhao Qiong was silently reading a scripture in her hand. In front of her, Li Sanlang was studying the fist technique engraved on the bone piece. Suddenly, Li Sanlang put down the bone piece and stood up. "What is it?" Zhao Qiong asked. "To the toilet," Li Sanlang replied. "Oh." Zhao Qiong lowered her head again and continued reading the thick tome in her hand. Sure enough, Li Sanlang didn't cause any enmity. During the entire duration of the apocalypse, no vengeful spirits appeared to take his life. Now that the apocalypse was over, there was no more danger. Bang! The door to the bathroom closed, and then there was the sound of flushing and a window opening. An orange cat appeared in the night and landed silently on the windowsill. Li Sanlang disappeared, turning back into a sword and hiding behind the orange cat's back. Meanwhile, the orange cat entered the bathroom and turned back into Li Sanlang. After a while, Li Sanlang walked out. "Sister Zhao, if you're sleepy, go and rest." "Everything is fine today," he said. Zhao Qiong smiled. "No, since I'm here, I have to ensure your safety for the entire night. I'll sleep on the sofa tonight." Gu Qingshan tried to persuade her a few more times, but who would have thought that Zhao Qiong, who appeared to be gentle on the outside, would be so stubborn in this matter that she insisted on protecting Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan could only let her be. He returned to his bedroom, lay down on the bed, and soon fell asleep. Night Patrol God was activated again. This time, Gu Qingshan did not have any special purpose, it was purely to train her ability. It was a silent night. At dawn, Li Qiuyu returned. Was he obedient last night? Li Qiuyu directly asked Zhao Qiong. Very obedient, he sat for a bit after eating, then went to sleep after the apocalypse was over, Zhao Qiong replied. Were there any vengeful spirits that came to bother him? Li Qiuyu continued to ask. A few chickens, ducks, goats, and fish, Zhao Qiong replied. Pfft, Li Qiuyu couldn't help but chuckle. Zhao Qiong also chuckled. She must have killed some livestock when she was learning how to cook. This little fellow was too interesting. But they didn't know that sometimes when Gu Qingshan couldn't cook, Shanu would help him slaughter some livestock. As for when Gu Qingshan faced the vengeful spirit apocalypse, due to the Soul Shrieker's appearance, even if the chickens and ducks died, they wouldn't dare to appear with this monster. So this was the result. The two of them smiled and looked at the kitchen. A figure that wasn't too tall was busy in the kitchen. After breakfast, Zhao Qiong said goodbye. Li Qiuyu needed to go to HQ to write a report, and Gu Qingshan needed to go to school, so the three of them went their separate ways. Study Lodge. This morning, all the youths were sitting neatly in the classroom. No one was absent. An old man with a goatee walked into the classroom. He cleared his throat and said straightforwardly, "Today, we have a vocational class." A stone fragment appeared in his hand. As everyone knows, in our tomb of myriad beasts, there are a total of 3 professions. Quite a few people loudly called out, spirit-linked martial artists, weapon wielder, bone master. Indeed, the old man tossed the stone fragment onto the lectern and emphasized, but keep in mind, these are only the professions of our world. In truth, within the boundless void, the number of professions increases day by day. No one knows for sure how many combat professions there are. Understood? The youths all replied. Very well, we shall now experience the power of a weapon wielder. I have a question, who hasn't attended my class before? The old man asked. Everyone turned to look at Gu Qingshan. He was a newcomer, so he had only attended the history class and the combat class. Little one, what's your name? The old man asked. Li Qiushan, Gu Qingshan replied. Ah, I know you, Blade Venerate and Nethermaiden's younger brother. Come up to the lectern, the old man kindly said. Gu Qingshan followed his words and walked up to the lectern. Although she didn't know what a weapon wielder was, Gu Qingshan was also quite curious. Hold on to that stone fragment, the old man ordered. Yes, Gu Qingshan looked at the stone fragment. The stone fragment was dusty, almost like an unassuming piece of broken tile. What will happen? Gu Qingshan reached his hand out to hold the broken tile. Suddenly, the broken tile flickered a bit, then split into 2 sharp and shiny new daggers that fell into his hands. Ah! Gu Qingshan exclaimed in shock. The 2 daggers carried him and stabbed at the void in front of him. In an instant, he had completed a set of vicious assassination technique. Following that, streaks of burning light manifested into strings that circled around Gu Qingshan. Is this some kind of defense? While Gu Qingshan was thinking that, the daggers gave off cold sparks that flew several feet forward, cutting through the air with an ear-splitting noise. Let go! The old man shouted and slapped Gu Qingshan's hand, knocking the 2 daggers to the ground. He then lightly pressed his hand against the void of space. The cold sparks that flew out disappeared without a trace. Gu Qingshan looked down, only to see that the 2 daggers had once again turned into dusty stone fragments, lying motionlessly on the ground. All right, go back to your seat. Yes, teacher. Gu Qingshan returned to her seat and sat down. How miraculous! This weapon actually carried a killing technique, as well as a power similar to a thaumaturgy. She could clearly sense that this wasn't the dagger's limit. It still had more power. The old man said, All right, I'll explain. Within the Great Tomb, there are various weapons, armors, as well as other treasures. When the apocalypses descend upon our world from the Great Tomb, they would occasionally bring some powerful treasures with them. These treasures all contain unimaginable power, some of them even retain their own sentience, capable of helping us link our spirits and obtain certain abilities, inheritances, or even combat techniques. Among us, there are some who are naturally able to communicate with these treasures more easily than others, gaining their favor and being recognized as their new master. This is the weapon wielder. As for bone masters, their requirements for spirit linking are a bit higher. Saying so, the old man took out a thin piece of white bone and lightly placed it on the table. This one is dangerous, I can't let you touch it. While saying so, he lightly tapped the piece of bone with his hand. The piece of bone lightly shook. Instantly, the void of space warped and parted to reveal a strange corpse in front of everyone. It was a woman wearing tattered armor, her skin was dark purple in color, her eyes were closed as she silently floated in the void of space. Some of these pieces of bone contain the will of their previous owner. Through a unique method of communication, we are able to link with that will and manifest it. The old man pointed at the female corpse and said, As you can see, this piece of white bone is her skeleton. I used a bone master's secret technique to activate the white bone, and I can materialize her will and materialize it. Using this method to summon the master of the bones, how much combat strength can be displayed depends on how powerful the master of the bones was when he was alive. Secondly, it depends on how strong the Bone Master's ability to communicate with the Master of the Bones is when communicating with him using the secret technique. I've already linked with this female warrior's body for over 100 years. I can now exert 30% of her strength when she was alive. When we fight against the apocalypse, she shall fight by my side. The entire classroom went silent. The group of young people was both fearful and excited as they looked at the female corpse. Do you still remember what I said? This is a relatively advanced spirit linking. It requires a lot of knowledge and secret arts. Of course, it also requires talent. The old man raised his voice. He pointed at the bone from afar. The female corpse instantly disappeared. The old man rolled up his sleeves and continued. All right, let's talk about spirit-linked martial artists. This is interesting. The martial artist inheritances obtained through spirit linking all come from the depths of the Great Tomb, a place that we still can't reach. To become a spirit-linked martial artist, most of them would obtain unparalleled martial arts secret arts. All in all, these three professions of our tomb of myriad beasts, even within the infinite worlds of the void, are all renowned existences. Because we have such a tomb, it contains countless apocalypses, as well as countless treasures. It is a secret of the samsara waiting for us to discover. Chapter 13:12. Afternoon. Go in, I'll open the door for you after class. Yes, thank you, teacher. Gu Qing-shan turned around and greeted the practical class teacher. The practical class teacher closed the door. The door disappeared. The only person left in this extinct world of darkness was Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan still took out a blanket, spread it out on the collapsed metal wall, then crawled under it to prepare for this journey. A night cruiser who can pass through all obstacles and directly arrive at a certain location. If that's the case, why don't I take a look inside the Great Tomb? As soon as this thought appeared, Gu Qing-shan immediately confirmed it as something that he must do. The Wraith Realm's humans had already entered the Great Tomb above ground. Although there were also a few wraiths that could take human form in the Wraith Realm, they weren't truly powerful, primitive wraith. If they managed to research something from that wraith's corpse, wouldn't they become even more powerful? Since he had received the information, Gu Qing-shan decided to stop this. He closed his eyes and slowly calmed his breathing. A few moments later, he fell asleep. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Suddenly, Gu Qing-shan felt himself waking up. He controlled his consciousness to no longer fall back to the ground. Instead, he took to the air and flew deeper into the sky. Through the darkness of the night sky, he continued upwards and upwards. All of a sudden, all the darkness faded away. The sky became clear blue. He had finally broken through this world and reached the ocean above the school of Shanghai. Gu Qing-shan didn't stop. He flew across the ocean, up into the clouds, and reached the inverted mountain peaks in the sky. As he got closer, he noticed that these peaks were filled with lush greenery, and numerous powerful professionists were closely guarding this place, not allowing even a bird to land on these peaks. According to the war god Yui's description, a night cruiser wouldn't be noticed when activated, so Gu Qing-shan decided not to manifest any clones and continued to fly towards the peaks with his consciousness. Finally, he saw a large hole at the bottom of the mountain. There were a total of 5 rows of professionists guarding this place. Where exactly does this hole lead to? Was he heading to the great necropolis? While Gu Qing-shan was hesitating, she noticed Thousand Saints Blade Venerable Li Chun Dao. This big shot of the school of Shanghai was personally guarding this place. Gu Qing-shan no longer hesitated and rushed into the huge hole. He felt dizzy. All around, nothing could be seen. There was nothing. Gu Qing-shan found himself standing in the void of space. No matter how much energy he expended, no matter which direction he flew in, he could not leave this void. Gu Qing-shan pondered for a moment, then began to condense her body. In the void, his figure gradually appeared. The next second, As if sensing his change, the surroundings seemed to have changed. The faint sound of running water rang in his ears. The scenery turned from blurry to clear. Gu Qingshan looked over and found that in front of her was a long river. There was no one by the riverside, but a small boat swayed as it approached. The boat reached the shore and stopped not too far away from Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan looked at the boat, then at the long river. Other than him, there was no one else in this world. There were no clues, no information, nothing to analyze. Gu Qingshan sighed and muttered, "How regretful, I'm only a spirit-linked martial artist in preparation, I don't have the qualifications to learn the secrets of the great necropolis." He lightly leapt forward and landed on the boat. All of a sudden, a hand appeared on the boat. The hand placed a jade tablet on the boat and immediately disappeared. Gu Qingshan froze. He didn't think that he would have to take a boat to enter the great necropolis. Even more so, he didn't think that a hand would appear from the void of space and place a jade badge carved with a wraith on it. This was a bit eerie. Gu Qingshan pondered, then waved his hand to take the wraith jade badge and played with it. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the War God UI Frowny Face 9 Serenity Een Incantation Jade Badge, able to break through all spacetime, specialized in protecting and revealing secrets. Owner. Gu Qingshan focused his mind and released his spirit energy to activate the jade badge. A familiar voice resounded. Frowny Face, no need to be surprised. As soon as this jade badge became agitated, I immediately knew that another me had entered this tomb. Among all the parallel worlds, 2 me had already entered this great tomb. You are the third. Do you think that there are too few of us? It can't be helped. Each me wanted to go to the Wraith realm to understand the Wraiths, study them, and defeat them. It was truly a coincidence that I came to the tomb of myriad beasts. Thanks to the first me who came here, he once discovered this 9 Serenity Een Incantation Jade Badge here, which was able to transmit some short information to himself through space-time. I will now relay the information he left behind. If you carry an order, like me, you must do your best to avoid the corpses of void monsters and awaitings, otherwise, you will definitely fall into desperate straits and suffer greatly. The secret of this tomb is too deep. I suspect that it is related to the collapse of the samsara. Regretfully, I do not have the identity of a samsara. If you do, please give it a try. The voice changed direction and continued. Frowny Face, very well. Aside from the first me, as the second me, I will now tell you what I discovered. Listen carefully. We entered this place at different times, but after entering, we were once again in a state where we could communicate, which is why I want to say, the space-time of the Great Tomb is chaotic. Do not use common sense to infer what you see. If you are like me and have the identity of a samsara Azura's son-in-law, then use it. At the very least, this ship will take you to the Azura tribe's tomb. I have only just begun to explore the Azura's tomb. If you find any information, you can tell me and the other me also. After you have finished reading the contents of this jade badge, you only need to expend a bit of soul points to have it record something else. You only need to put it back into the void, and it will return to the first me. Finally, I discovered that the people of the Tomb of Myriad Beasts had only managed to travel as far as the outer islands of the Great Tomb through this river. They had no idea how to go deeper into the tomb. The voice disappeared. Even though Gu Qingshan had experienced a lot of strange things, she still couldn't help but feel a bit surprised at this moment. Who would have thought that I would run into myself here? Within the same space-time, I wouldn't be able to see myself, unless I was as powerful as Lady Fusey. But for a parallel world, I would be able to see myself from that world. As the saying goes, 3 people make a tiger. If I can ally with myself, wouldn't it be a lot more convenient in this great tomb? Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then abruptly exuded intense wind from his body. Soul points. He infused his soul points into the 9 Serenity Een Incantation Jade Tablet and said, "Listen, the other 2 me, I have a piece of information to tell you. In my space-time, the people of the Wraith Realm had also arrived here. They had allied with the people of the Tomb of Myriad Beasts to excavate the corpse of a Wraith. Are you interested in joining forces with me to eliminate them? Saying so, he put the jade tablet into the void of space. The jade tablet disappeared with a sha. It would return to the first Guqing Shan, then be passed on from the first Guqing Shan to the second Guqing Shan, then finally to where Guqing Shan was. Guqing Shan thought for a bit, then walked in front of the boat. Do I need the Samsara identity? He boarded the boat, casually took out the Devil King Warden rod, and stabbed it into the boat. The boat abruptly moved. It returned to the river, chose a new direction, and drifted along the vast river. Chapter 13:13. Standing on the boat, Guqing Shan's gaze fell onto the turbulent water. The color of the water became deeper and deeper. Forgetting river? Guqing Shan carefully thought about it. No, this feeling isn't forgetting river. Forgetting river gives off the feeling of being reborn in the midst of death, forgetting everything and starting over again. But the river here exudes an endless sense of despair and chilliness. The boat slowly drifted. The water around them became wider and wider until they couldn't see the end. What is that? Guqing Shan muttered. Not too far away from him, at the center of the river, there was a small protruding island. Although it was called a small island, it was only a few meters in diameter. A single statue stood on top of the island. The statue looked like some sort of reptilian beast, but it had 3 heads. One head looked like a ferocious tiger, one looked like an eagle, and the last head looked like a human, but not a human. Come, a voice resounded in Guqing Shan's mind. Frowny face, come to the island. I want to pass my inheritance to you, that way I can die in peace. Guqing Shan looked at the statue. This statue took up all the space on the island, so anyone who wanted to get on the island wouldn't have any space to stand on. I can't get on, Guqing Shan replied. You can control the boat to come here. Don't jump over, the boat will disappear, the statue said. Guqing Shan looked down at the boat below him. Sure enough, the boat was drifting towards the direction of the statue as he wanted. Is that right? Guqing Shan asked. Yes, that's right, the statue replied. Guqing Shan controlled the boat to cut through the water and sailed a few dozen meters away from the island. The statue's 3 heads were staring at Guqing Shan, following the direction of the boat. Why did you leave? The statue asked in confusion. Because I have something to do, I'll come find you again when I return, Guqing Shan replied. The statue said, listen to my advice. Since you've obtained a ship, you should use it to escape from this tomb instead of going deeper. The boat stayed in the water. Guqing Shan asked confusedly, but I want to go in and have a look. Don't go in. There are countless doomsday suns in there. Countless powerful existences in the void in the past have died to those doomsday suns, let alone you. The stone statue continued, run. Take my inheritance and run away quickly. This is your only chance of survival. Guqing Shan took a deep look at the stone statue. He steered the boat and continued to sail towards the end of the river. Not long after, the island on the water surface behind him suddenly disappeared. Guqing Shan felt relieved. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This time, he didn't have any information. He was completely relying on his own cautiousness and intuition to make a choice. The other party cared so much about his ship, there had to be some sort of rule that prevented him from boarding the ship directly. Guqing Shan silently thought to herself. She let go of the control of the boat and let it continue to move in a certain direction. A few minutes later, a new situation appeared in front of the boat. A black object was bobbing up and down on the surface of the river, almost like a piece of wood. Guqing Shan drew her sword and carefully observed it. Unfortunately, the black object seemed to be obscured by something. There was also a faint mist drifting above the river, so even inner sight couldn't clearly observe it. When the boat got closer, Gu Qingshan could finally see what it was. It was a black finger that was several dozen meters long. The finger seemed to have sensed the boat and started to struggle in the water. A gentle female voice resounded in Gu Qingshan's mind. The glory and honor of the past have already faded, I now need a successor. Come, you can learn everything about the void from me. Brave human, come and be my successor. Gu Qingshan looked at the black finger and asked, Who are you? Why are you here in the form of a finger? The female voice gently replied, I couldn't stop the destruction of the deep apocalypse, only this finger remained, drifting here for countless years. But now, I can't hold on much longer, I need you to accept all of my knowledge and continue the flame of my lineage. Gu Qingshan went silent and said nothing. In his mind, the boundless coldness and danger caused his heart to beat faster and faster. The feeling of dread surged like a tidal wave. This feeling, something's not right. This wasn't instinct, but rather a vague impression obtained through their conversation and perception of their surroundings. Gu Qingshan instinctively wanted to use his world technique. Once the parallel dream technique was activated, he would be able to observe what the black finger would do if he made a certain reaction. At this point, Gu Qingshan suddenly recalled that his world technique had already disappeared. Indeed, when he completed the final strike of the offering to the infinite worlds, the origin of the worlds of the past that had fused into one had entered his eye, causing the two world techniques to disappear. The new world technique was still in the process of evolving and hadn't manifested yet. Gu Qingshan sighed helplessly and temporarily gave up on doing anything. In this dangerous environment, the small boat was already very deep in the water while carrying him, so it couldn't carry such a heavy finger anymore. He no longer paid attention to the black finger. Without a sound, the small boat slowly drifted away from the other side of the black finger. The female voice became hurried. Oh, wait a minute, as long as you save me, I will tell you a secret. This secret is related to your survival. Gu Qingshan shook his head. My life is more important than the secret, farewell. The female voice abruptly became high-pitched and sharp, using a sharp voice to exude the deepest malice. Entity on the boat, you don't know who you've angered. I am the ruler of all gloom within the void, the shadows of all things are under my control, yet an ant like you dares to reject me? I curse you in the name of the gloom. Regardless of which graveyard you choose, you will die within the deep apocalypse. Ah ha 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 ha! The voice laughed hysterically. Following this laughter, the black finger had also sunk into the river, no longer visible. Gu Qingshan felt a bone-piercing chill. He felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. This sensation came and went very quickly, disappearing in the blink of an eye, making it seem like everything that happened just now was just an illusion. But Gu Qingshan knew that this was a real sensation. Lines of glowing text also appeared on the war god Ui frowny face. You've been afflicted with the wicked curse of the void monster. Gloom Void Matriarch, when you step into a certain graveyard, you will surely die there. A description. Fortunately, you came here as night cruiser, so as soon as your night cruiser dies, this curse will disappear. Gu Qingshan lightly sighed in relief. Sure enough, those excessively powerful void monsters weren't completely dead yet. Using various methods, they were still able to exist within this river of chaotic spacetime. From the looks of it, the Lord of the Space-Time Mystery Nest was an even more outstanding entity. After all, it managed to escape, only to be suppressed and sealed away by the tomb of myriad beasts. Otherwise, it might have been able to rise again. Gu Qingshan's mind was in a mess, feeling that these monsters' words and actions were a bit strange. Without waiting for him to think any further, he saw a faint mist rising from the water several hundred meters in front of him. This mist quickly formed into a giant skull. This skull was slightly different from a human's. Its cheeks were too long, almost 3 times the length of a human's. As soon as this skull appeared, the entire river seemed to have come to life. Countless strange creatures appeared from the bottom of the river, hurriedly fleeing from where the skull was. Gu Qingshan suddenly sensed something and lightly tapped his inventory bag. The colorful rooster leapt out from the inventory bag and yelled at him, "Run! Run! I can sense the true presence of the apocalypse." "True? What do you mean by true?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Idiot, a lot of apocalypses are merely evolved versions of the true apocalypse. They're very weak, nothing but illusions that can only destroy a few weak worlds. This isn't one of those trash," the colorful rooster hurriedly replied. This colorful rooster was the product of the fusion of War God intelligence and the Hitman Guild's most advanced intelligence container, so Gu Qingshan naturally trusted it. He turned the boat around and hurriedly fled in the opposite direction. Behind the boat, the skull slowly moved forward. The floating objects on the surface of the river where it was facing quickly disappeared completely. Gu Qingshan was surprised. Can a mere gaze destroy all living beings? Or is it using some sort of method that I don't know about? If a mere gaze is enough to destroy everything, the boat wouldn't have been able to escape. Hey, can this skull be killed? Gu Qingshan drew his sword, calmed himself down, and began to prepare for battle. The colorful rooster glanced at the skull made of mist, then collapsed on the ground, speaking full of despair. "Not good, not good, we won't be able to escape this time." Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask. "Then tell me quickly, can it be killed?" "The only path we can take right now is to fight it. It's no longer in space-time, so you can't kill it," the colorful rooster explained further. "This is the true form of an apocalypse that came from outside the gate. Once it sees you, the laws of space and time would no longer be able to exist on your body. You would enter eternal blankness. Only death would give you a chance to escape." Gu Qingshan went silent for a while. Suddenly, he sighed, hugged the colorful rooster in his chest, and said, "Time's up." Instantly, he disappeared without a trace. At another location, the Tomb of Myriad Beasts, the Western Sea Grotto, the School of Shanghai, the Study Lodge's storage room, Gu Qingshan woke up from a destroyed world. Chapter 13-14. Ho ho ho! Gu Qingshan sat up from the collapsed metal slab and breathed heavily. The long-cheeked skull formed by the mist gave him an unprecedented pressure. If he was glanced at by that skull, death would be his only fate. No living being could resist such an apocalypse. I don't know, how many more of such apocalypses are there? Is there an apocalypse more terrifying than this one in the Great Tomb? Even the Lord of the Space-Time Mystery Nest only had a strand of hair left before he managed to escape. The Dark Void Matriarch only had a single finger left, still floating in the river without a chance to come out. But after the Dark Void Matriarch met Gu Qingshan, she was able to curse Gu Qingshan to death with a single finger. Even the existence that had passed the inheritance to him had become so powerful that it was almost unimaginable. Even it was trapped in the tomb. Gu Qingshan sighed, feeling that despite how vast the infinite worlds were, there wasn't a single ray of light that could pierce through the apocalypse. In the darkness, he sat there, recalling everything that he had seen so far. He slowly fell into thought. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared in front of him. Frowny face. Through constant practice, you've adeptly grasped the cloning technique. Night Cruiser, you may now begin to practice the new cloning technique. Day Cruiser. Using the Night Cruiser cloning technique as the foundation, you will be able to perform this cloning technique even during the day. Reading these lines of glowing text, Gu Qingshan fell into thought for a long while. War God UI, I have a question, Gu Qingshan asked. The current situation is not within the system's control, so the system will always be in a state of high vigilance. If you take the time to answer a question, 1,000 soul points will be deducted. Please ask your question seriously, the War God UI replied. Gu Qingshan didn't care about the soul points and simply asked, "Listen, when I manifested Night Cruiser, all of my belongings followed me to the location of my clone. I want to know, did you also follow my clone to another location? Correct, the war god Yu, I replied. 1,000 soul points were deducted. In other words, you don't know what state my main body is in? Gu Qingshan asked again. Yes, the war god Yu, I replied. Are you sure? Please ensure the accuracy of your answers. I don't want a wrong judgment to affect my final judgment. Gu Qingshan asked without any regard for her soul power. The war god Yu, I replied. I can confirm it with absolute certainty. When your soul vessel left your main body, and had yet to manifest your true body, your main body was still in a state of deep slumber at the very last moment of my observation. Gu Qingshan nodded. This doppelganger technique was too amazing. Just as he was thinking, there was a knock on the door. A door opened in the void, and the combat class teacher stood at the door, sizing him up. Li Sanlang, class is over. Oh, all right. Thank you, teacher. Gu Qingshan got up, put the bedding into the bone bracelet, and walked out of the door. How was your practice today? The combat teacher asked as he walked. Not bad, it's progressing very quickly. But when I sleep, I feel like I'm entering the dreamland too slowly, Gu Qingshan complained. The combat class teacher thought for a bit, then said, I don't know what kind of inheritance you're trying to form spirit linking with, but I have my own thoughts on dreaming. Gu Qingshan's eyes lit up, then hurriedly asked, Ah? Teacher, please tell me, the combat class teacher replied. People often say what you think in the day, you dream at night. I think you should give yourself a hint before you go to sleep, telling yourself what kind of state you want to dream about. That makes sense. I'll have to think about it a bit more, Gu Qingshan praised, then looked at the combat class teacher with a bit of respect. The combat class teacher patted his shoulder and smiled. Do your best, you're the younger brother of those two, you'll definitely become this year's strongest disciple. Thank you for your encouragement, teacher, Gu Qingshan thanked him. All right, I'll talk to you later, you should go back and cook, at the fork in the road. The combat class teacher nodded to Gu Qingshan and walked down the other path. Looking at his back, Gu Qingshan's lips twitched, then suddenly called out, Goodbye, teacher. The combat class teacher waved his hand without turning around. Gu Qingshan stood at the fork in the road for 2 breaths worth of time, then suddenly started to hum a happy tune. Kamathis was a song from the study lodge. Every young man here knew how to sing it. With a relaxed expression on his face, Gu Qingshan slowly walked home while humming a tune. With a relaxed expression on his face, Gu Qingshan followed the road home, humming a tune as he slowly walked. Shanu Earth Sword, Chao In Sword, don't show yourselves, listen to me, Shanu Earth Sword, Chao In Sword, don't show yourselves and listen to me, Shanu Earth Sword, Chao In Sword, don't show yourselves, listen to me, what is it? The Earth Sword asked. The Chao In Sword replied. At this point, Gu Qingshan ran into a fellow student and waved his hand to greet him. While talking to that young man, he continued to send his voice in his mind. Heaven's Sword, Luo Bingli is currently sleeping, so I only have the 3 of you left. From now on, all of you need to be as focused as possible without losing focus for even a second. Why? Does Gongzi feel like you're in danger? Shanu hurriedly asked. The Earth Sword also replied. But we've always been by your side, even when you turned into the night cruiser, we've still been by your side to protect you. As long as you don't go to that great tomb for now, there shouldn't be any major danger, the Chao In Sword doubtfully replied. Gu Qingshan ran into another fellow student and smiled as he greeted him. School had just ended, so everyone had just left the study lodge and was about to return home, so it was natural that they ran into each other. As Gu Qingshan walked with the other students, he sent his voice in his mind. A lot of things haven't been confirmed yet, so I can only tell you one thing. Please go ahead, Gongzi, Shanu replied. What kind of person do you think the Soul Shrieker is? Gu Qingshan asked. Shanu hesitated a bit, then answered. insane, unscrupulous, disregarding the lives of others, cold and merciless, the Earth Sword replied. Sly, cruel, vengeful, never giving up until it achieves its goal, Gu Qingshan replied. Indeed, in order to forge the twin swords heaven and earth, it used all sorts of schemes to set up a trap in the age of old heaven. After that, in the fallen zones, in order to cause the chaos to descend, it fought against the corpses summoned by the Demon King Order, for a long period of time, finally causing the era of chaos to descend. It isn't an enemy that gives up easily, Gongzi, but it has already fused with primal chaos and completely disappeared. We've all seen this with our own eyes, why are you still doubting it? Shanu asked. The Earth Sword also replied. Gu Qingshan, relax a bit, I think you're just being too cautious. You should know that a dead person wouldn't lie to you, not to mention a monster like the Soul Shrieker has already gone from being dead to completely disappearing. That's right, a dead person wouldn't lie, that's why I can see the problem, Gu Qingshan replied. What problem? The Earth Sword asked. An entity of its level, if it could once again attack me after death, it would definitely be extremely excited and do everything it could to make things difficult for me, Gu Qingshan replied. Shanna couldn't help but say, Gongzi, you have the Devil King Warden Rod, so it knows that messing with you will only result in its complete disappearance. That's why it didn't dare to fight against you again, the Earth Sword added. You're wrong, Gu Qingshan casually replied. In the end it fused into primal chaos and completely disappeared. This was the final destination it chose for itself. If it had already resolved itself to be fused into primal chaos, with its insane personality, why didn't it come and fight me to the death? After all, it's not afraid of anything anymore. The three swords stopped, unable to say anything. That's right, if it wasn't afraid of death, why would it say something like, you have the Devil King Warden Rod of Huangquan, and give up on fighting against its enemy? That doesn't make sense. Perhaps it doesn't want to make things difficult for you anymore, the Earth Sword said. Gu Qingshan resolutely answered. No, when I asked it what kind of world the Dusty World was, it told me full of hatred that it would never tell me the truth. Recalling that scene, Shanna muttered, That's right, that means it still cares a lot about Gongzi. The Earth Sword was a bit confused and asked, if it still hates you and isn't afraid of its soul disappearing, why didn't it try to fight against you? That's right, it's already dead. I left the soul-absorbing shield to Zhang Yongho, so it had a chance to fight against me and see if it could kill me, Gu Qingshan replied. While talking to the three swords, he was also discussing what he learned from the practical combat class with the other student. At this point, the three swords couldn't say anything anymore. Who would have thought that a dead enemy would bring up such a complicated and confusing problem? The more Shanna thought about it, the more scared she was, so she couldn't help but ask, Gongzi, it really had a chance to kill you at the time, but why did it give up? Gu Qingshan sent her voice. I don't know if you noticed, but after it appeared, it first looked at me carefully, then slowly backed away. The three swords recalled the scene at the time. The Chao Yin sword was the first to respond. Yes, that's right, the Earth Sword confirmed. I also remember, Shanna said. Gu Qingshan continued. At the time, I could sense its fear and despair. At first, I thought it was afraid of the Devil King Warden Rod, but after it fused with primal chaos, I felt like it wasn't afraid of the scepter. Gu Qingshan slowly sent her voice. Under what circumstances would anyone give up on taking revenge on their enemy? He forgave his enemy? The Earth Sword asked. Gu Qingshan replied. There are only two possibilities. The first is that he forgave his enemy. This situation shouldn't have happened to the Soul Shrieker. I could clearly sense its hatred towards me. Then, there's only the second possibility. Its enemy would face a fate even more terrible than if it had personally taken revenge. That fate made it feel like it didn't need to do anything else, in other words. And the thing that it feared and despaired about had already happened to me. Because of its deep hatred towards me as its enemy, it gave up on trying to kill me and allowed me to face that even worse fate. Shanna's voice became tense. Gongzi, what exactly is it? Why can't I sense anything at all? The Earth Sword suddenly said. Tell me quickly, Gu Shan, I need to do everything I can to prepare for Earth's choice, no matter what kind of danger it might be. There's no need to be too anxious, I'm simply planning ahead and telling you to be on guard. Gu Shan cut the Earth Sword off and calmly said, The dead truly don't lie. I'm very grateful for the Soul Shrieker's reappearance, it allowed us to notice the clues of fate ahead of time. We still have a bit of time to save ourselves, so next. He smiled, bid farewell to his classmates, and headed towards Li Qiuyu's residence. Let us see the truth of this world. Chapter 13-15. Open the door. I'm back, Gu Shan said. You're back? Quickly go to the kitchen and cook, Li Qiuyu's voice came. Is that something you should say to greet someone? Gu Shan grumbled and went to the kitchen, only to see that all the ingredients had already been bought and were neatly arranged on the chopping board. Let me help you, a girl came into the kitchen. It was Zhao Qiong. Ah, Senior Zhao? Gu Shan was surprised. I came to discuss something with your sister, but it was a bit late, so she asked me to stay for dinner, Zhao Qiong said with a slightly flushed expression. Gu Shan looked outside the window. It was already getting dark. Then help me wash these ingredients, I'll take care of the rest. All right, the two of them began to work. While cutting the ingredients, Gu Shan glanced at Zhao Qiong. She was very focused on washing the ingredients, then went to arrange the utensils. This girl should be fine. Gu Shan turned her gaze away and started cooking. A few dozen minutes later, a table full of sumptuous dishes was ready. Li Sanlang, someone like you will definitely be very popular when you grow up, Zhao Qiong commented. Li Qiuyu yawned, came out of her bedroom, and glanced at the table. Ah? Why are there so many dishes today? She asked in surprise. I'm in a good mood today, Gu Shan smiled. Li Qiuyu picked up the utensils and began to taste the dishes. This one is good, this one is also good. They're all very good. San Lang, listen carefully, from now on, you have to make this many dishes for lunch, Gu Shan muttered. In the long run, I don't want to become a pig farmer. Li Qiushan, say that again. After finishing their meal, the three of them sat together to drink tea. San Lang, why are you in a good mood today? Zhao Qiong asked. My cultivation has improved. I feel like I'm about to receive a new inheritance from spirit linking, Gu Shan replied. Zhao Qiong and Li Qiuyu both appeared surprised. That fast? Li Qiuyu couldn't help but ask. Gu Shan asked, is this considered fast? Very fast, very few people could be as fast as you. How impressive, Zhao Qiong praised. Gu Shan's heart tightened, but she smiled and said, Right, big sister Qiuyu, I have a question for you. Seeing his pleading expression, Li Qiuyu scoffed, ask away. When I performed the spirit linking, you were watching over me. Did I fall asleep right away? Gu Shan asked. Li Qiuyu thought for a bit and said, At the time, you glanced at me, then fell asleep. Big sis Qiuyu, I don't even remember looking at you, Gu Shan said. Li Qiuyu casually said, That's nothing, sometimes people will subconsciously do a few small things, but they might not remember it. Gu Shan didn't dwell on this issue anymore. He turned to Zhao Qiong and asked, Big sis Zhao, I heard from my history teacher that there were many void monsters that infiltrated the Great Tomb, is that true? This was common knowledge, so Zhao Qiong didn't mind it and nodded. Yes, at the time, the Great Tomb had only just appeared and spat out quite a few rare treasures, causing powerful entities from all 10 worlds to rush into the tomb. Li Qiuyu took a sip of tea and casually cut in. What's there to ask about that? Even we could only slowly study the tomb's outer perimeter, but they dared to directly charge in. There's no need to say what happened to them, Gu Shan muttered to herself. After that time, no one had ever dared to arbitrarily enter the Great Tomb again. Li Qiuyu shook her head. You're wrong. As long as there are benefits, there will always be people who don't believe in them. From the past until now, every few dozen years, or even a few hundred years, there would always be people who didn't even notify us and charged in without permission. No one should be able to come out, right? Gu Qingshan asked. Of course not, Li Qiuyu smiled. Zhao Qiong corrected her. There were a few who were especially lucky, perhaps because they didn't go too deep inside and managed to come out alive, but those were extremely rare, and even if they did come out, they would already be on the verge of death. Then they must have been caught by us, Gu Qingshan replied. No, we don't dare to touch them, because we don't know if they brought out some sort of unimaginable apocalypse, so we usually hope that they can leave the tomb of myriad beasts as soon as possible, Li Qiuyu replied. After saying that, she tapped Gu Qingshan's head and said, You little brat, why are you asking so many questions? It's better for you to quickly raise your spirit linking level. Once your strength reaches a certain level, you'll naturally be able to learn a lot of things. Ouch, be gentle, Gu Qingshan exclaimed in pain and dejectedly said, I'm only 13 years old, when will I be able to learn even more secrets? Seeing him being hit on the head by his sister, and showing a wronged expression, Zhao Qiong's heart softened. She stroked Gu Qingshan's head and gently told him, In another 2 years, after you graduate from the study lodge, you'll be able to go to the book vault to read some basic information. We have a few records regarding the entities that trespassed into the Great Tomb. You can take a look at them yourself. Big sis Zhao Qiong is the best, Gu Qingshan replied. Li Qiuyu glared at him and said, Have you finished your tea? If you're done, then go cultivate. Gu Qingshan stood up, greeted Zhao Qiong, and returned to his bedroom. As soon as the door closed, he could still hear the two girls talking. This child, seriously. It's nothing, we were also curious about these things back then, weren't we? Gu Qingshan stood behind the door for a while, replaying their conversation just now in his mind. Is my spirit linking really fast? He silently thought, then walked up to his bed and sat down. I have a few thoughts, a few guesses, but no proof. The truth is hidden within the endless fog. If I want to approach it bit by bit, I can't go in the wrong direction. Gu Qingshan sat there, silently waiting. Outside the window, the shroud of night slowly deepened. Finally, he heard Zhao Qiong and Li Qiuyu saying their goodbyes. The door closed. Li Qiuyu came back, washed up, and returned to her bedroom. Gu Qingshan waited for a while longer, until it was midnight before he left his room and went straight to Li Qiuyu's bedroom. He opened the door and went in, only to see Li Qiuyu sleeping soundly on the bed. Gu Qingshan stared at her. Li Qiuyu didn't notice this at all. Shanna's voice came. Gongzi, if you just stand there, what if she wakes up? She won't wake up, Gu Qingshan replied. Did Gongzi do something to the food? It's actually a type of spirit cooking treatment. It's able to replenish her blood essence, calm her mind, and make her full of vigor, but only after a good night's sleep, Gu Qingshan replied. 3 flying swords appeared from the void of space behind his back. If she won't wake up then, what are we going to do? The Earth Sword asked. What do you think Gongzi is going to do? Shanu asked in return. The Earth Sword replied. Take a guess. Shanu wasn't fooled and asked Gu Qingshan right away. Gongzi, what do we do now? Gu Qingshan took out a formation plate and began to arrange it. She's currently in a deep sleep, so she doesn't have any strong defensive capabilities. I'll arrange several layers of formations for her so that if something happens to her, I'll be able to know in time. As he spoke, he set up dozens of defensive formations around the bed. Li Qiuyu was still in a deep sleep, completely unaware of this. Gongzi wants to go out? Shanna guessed. Yes, we're going to the bookkeeping room to check if there were any void monsters that managed to escape from the Great Tomb, Gu Qingshan replied. That place must be heavily guarded, Shanu commented. As long as you graduate from the study lodge, you'll be able to openly enter without any risk, the Earth Sword replied. I can't wait, Gu Qingshan replied. How about using night cruiser? Shanu suggested. Gu Qingshan didn't say anything. He returned to his room, opened the window, and leapt out. Halfway there, he had already transformed into a large orange cat and lightly landed on the ground. Ghostly Shadow of Night, activate. Using the Jade Gourd Pendant Adorables, Spotless Jade, ability, the orange cat quickly ran through the streets without being noticed by any of the patrolling guards. The orange cat quickly made his way to the bookkeeping room. The bookkeeping room was a black pagoda-shaped structure that stood straight at the center of the city. It was already quite late at night, so there weren't many people in the bookkeeping room, but there were still quite a few guards stationed here. After all, the bookkeeping room contained too many mysteries and secrets, which were the most valuable things to the people of the Tomb of Myriad Beasts. The orange cat silently observed for a while, then circled around to the back of the bookkeeping room and quickly found an air vent. However, this place was filled with bone fragments, which meant that a bone master had already arranged an airtight defense here. Meow, the orange cat lightly called out. The Six Paths Great Mountain sword abruptly appeared from the void of space and abruptly stabbed towards the air vent. All techniques, all laws were destroyed by this single stab. The orange cat rushed in like a bolt of lightning. At the same time, "Who goes there?" A series of shouts resounded. 8 guards descended from above, landing near the air vent. They looked around but couldn't find anything. All the bone fragments were perfectly intact. Just now, the technique on the bone fragments was activated, then abruptly disappeared. The guards hurriedly contacted the Bone Master on duty inside the bookkeeping room. The Bone Master came over to take a look, then led the guards to search for traces bit by bit. Nothing. How strange. In the end, the Bone Master concluded that something like a leaf blown by the wind had accidentally triggered the bone fragments and caused this result. Because something like this had happened before, this result was acceptable. Everyone then dispersed. At another location, Gu Qingshan entered the bookkeeping room and began to search floor by floor. Now that he had understood the basic situation of this civilization, he wasn't completely at a loss when searching for book. Very quickly, he confirmed that the information he was looking for was on the lowest floor. After all, any newcomer who graduated from the study lodge would be able to check these secrets, so this place wasn't particularly heavily guarded. At this point, the Bone Master on duty had already returned to his position and was currently checking the most important secrets on the highest floor of the tower, so he didn't have time to pay attention to this place. The bookkeeping room was dark and silent. An orange cat that couldn't be noticed by anyone was slowly pacing around the neatly arranged bone fragments. Otherworld monster death records and relevant information. The orange cat stopped in front of this sign. It began to fiddle with the only long piece of bone. This place only contained the most basic secrets, so there was only one related bone fragment. The orange cat was a bit disappointed, but since he was already here like a person, he crouched down on the ground and carefully read the bone fragment. All of a sudden, he seemed to have noticed something as the slowly swaying tail behind him suddenly froze in midair. Written in the language of the Tomb of Myriad Beasts, a piece of information was recorded on the bone fragment. Frowny face. Naturally, a few extremely fortunate void monsters managed to escape from the Great Tomb, but their numbers are extremely low. The following is the list of survivors. 5th, Abyssal Monster, Soul Shrieker. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.